They did some magic to the DNA. What? Yeah, he didn't ever clarify on that either. He's like a tube of toothpaste. He'd squeeze here, he'd move there. Am I wrong to think that a lot of people put aside the fact that Tyler Robinson had no intention of surviving after all was said and done, hence the preponderance of evidence? No, you're not alone in thinking that. I also have thought that he likely set the time text messages because he thought that he wasn't going to make it through that, which doesn't surprise me. Many of them don't make it through, you know. Next time you're on Piers Morgan, please mention that Trump promised to bomb the hell out of Iran just before the election. Yeah, I know. Give me evidence, Andrew. He texted. He did it, Stu. What? That's not evidence? Yeah. I don't know what the fuck these people consider evidence at this point. Stu Peters' opening statement was an immediate ad hom on you being a shill. He's a 2 machine. Yeah, that's fine. Had to join the Crucible crew after watching you destroy that clown. W. Andrew L for Stu. Hey, man, you've really helped me with my life, and I deal with trolls. And how I deal with trolls, Andrew. I've noticed they either leave or conform. I've been doing this for 2 weeks, and they seem to conform. Yeah, trolls always start over here hating my guts, and then by like the third week, they're like, "Well, when's that fucking guy going to be?"
How you been, man?
Doing well. How are you?
Good, good, good. Are you live on YouTube?
I am.
Cool. All right, I want to just waiting for Stu Peters, and then I think we could briefly talk about the rules for this. So it's going to be, I think he has somewhere to be at 7, so if we can keep it to an hour, but I know you said 70, but talk about the rules and everything, and the intro time, and the rebuttal, and then free flow discussion. I want this to be fair debate.
So the rules were substance debate, no ad homs.
I agree.
You said if there's ad homs, you'll remove that person. I think.
Yeah, one warning, and then I'll just like end the debate.
Yep, that sounds fair.
Sounds great.
I thought we agreed on 75 minutes. I don't know how we could possibly get through everything in an hour.
Yeah, I'll speak about that when he gets in here. Let me get a water.
Okay.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick too. 1 second.
No problem.
Good to see you.
You too.
All right,
Well, that's weird.
yeah, what do we got going on here?
What's up? Who's on the screen?
It looks like you're on the screen and Sneeko's on the screen. It's doing like an infinite regress thing.
Oh, what's up? I hear your voice. I don't see you at all.
Yeah, that's bizarre. I wonder why it's doing that.
Oh, are you are you simulcasting it or something?
Yeah, I am, but it was
that's
just
probably
fine.
why.
It was just fine 5 seconds ago, and until you joined, and then if you turn your virtual camera off, I wonder what happens.
Who, mine?
Yeah.
I don't even know what a virtual camera is.
Hey.
Just logged in as Zoom. Hey, what up, Sneak?
How you doing, Stu?
Dude,
Not too bad. How are you?
I don't know what the hell's
fuck,
going on with the
bro.
picture suddenly. It was fine.
It was fine a second ago, but I think it's sharing your screen instead of your camera.
Really? Okay, hang on.
Yeah, it's your screen share. Oh, there you
There
go.
it is.
Looks good now.
Oh, well then. Thanks for that one, Mr. E.
All right. So, Stu, how much time do you have today? Because Andrew, we were discussing it.
hour.
You have an hour? Okay. Is that okay, Andrew?
I mean, I guess it's going to have to be.
All right. So I want this to be a fair, open discussion. This is a Charlie Kirk debate about his assassination. There's a point of contention about what happened. And I would like to do a 2-minute intro and then a 1-minute rebuttal, and then we can have free flow discussion. And then I'll only interject if there is too many interruptions. And also, I don't like ad hominem attacks.
Rebuttal, and then we can have free flow discussion, and then I'll
really happening. So I'll give one warning for ad homs, and then the second one just will disqualify and then end it. Does that sound good?
It does. Give me 1 quick second to fix the camera here.
No problem.
That my producer messed it up. Go quick. Not the time for this problem, bro.
Stu, did you see Pablo tweet? Apparently, I'm the reason that people hate Muslims in America now.
No, that's
No.
supposed to be out of scene.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I just
Source. That's supposed to be source. There you go.
Yeah, and flock cameras exist
Yeah,
for
I
you and
remember
I,
that.
right?
yeah, flock cameras are good now. That's what that's all about.
I remember that. I remember it
Stu,
very
can you
well,
raise your
bud.
microphone a little bit? It's
It
a
was
little
true,
low.
though.
Your audio.
It was true.
I don't know.
I was giving you premium content.
I just joined Zoom.
All you had to
Is
do,
there
all
a
you
way
had to do
you can make
was
it
deal with
louder,
me.
or maybe I can just raise your volume.
All right, I'm all set.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
It's good. Okay, chat's saying it's fine. Okay, that sounds great. All right, so see who goes first. Someone want to flip a coin to see who could decide who goes first for 2 minutes?
No, I don't care. Andrew can go first.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me either.
Okay,
Go ahead,
Andrew,
Andrew.
would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. So thanks, Stu, first and foremost, for actually having this debate, as almost nobody else on your side will. To make my position crystal clear on this, as I have many times before, there could have been a conspiracy to murder Charlie Kirk, though it's more likely it would have come from left-wing groups or agitators. But what I assess as evidence, and it's standard, just to clarify this very quickly, evidence is information, facts, data, or materials which support a claim and truth, hypothesis, or assertion, and it doesn't always support a conclusion. Proof is a successful demonstration of a claim. Stu Peters, like many of these independent investigators working on the Kirk case, produced some evidence for some claims, but never proof. And their evidence always falls short for there to be a conclusion, especially the ones that they propel as being factual. An example of this, if I say I am holding a cigarette, that is evidence I'm holding one. But if I show you that I'm holding a cigarette, that would be proof.
That would be proof.
Stu has made many claims. Some he just plain has no evidence for, and some so little it just doesn't support his conclusion. He's going to ask a lot of questions, but he doesn't seem to be great at demonstrating the claims that he's already made. Claim 1, Stu Peters says Andrew Colvett is Jewish. This was posted by him September 21st. Quote, Andrew Colvett is a Jew, and I'm not buying even one piece of the official Charlie Kirk assassination story. No evidence given for the claim at all. Both of Colvett's parents were Catholic. There isn't any evidence he has any ethnic Jewish blood at all. So that's just totally made up. Claim 2, quote, we now with 100% certainty know that Andrew Colvett was linked to Fort Huachuca in the days and weeks leading up to Charlie Kirk's assassination. That was July 17th on X. Colvett denies the claim, and the only evidence Stu has made for the claim is a man named Snow, who
10
also
seconds.
believes What? You said 3 minutes.
That's it too. You want? I can push it to 3
Oh.
if you guys both agree.
Yeah, you said 3 minutes.
Okay, let's do
yeah.
3. You have another minute, Stu. I'll give you 3 as well. Go ahead.
Colvett denies the claim. The only evidence Stu has made for the claim is a man named Snow, who also believes his father is the Zodiac killer and that a cockroach he captured was actually a spying device. Thus far, he hasn't shown us the cockroach even. Snow has provided no evidence for the presence of Andrew Colvett, Erica Kirk, or anybody being at Fort Huachuca. Past, trust me, bro, I saw them. Next, he uses Ana Escobar and her Google Analytics, which can't be replicated as the data isn't there. But most importantly, from her own admission, may not have come from the base at all, as there are 45,000 residents in that suburb, 6,500 at the base. She says this herself. There's no good reason to believe, based on this evidence, that Erica Kirk was ever there, or Andrew Colvett, or anybody else Snow claims was. In other words, Stu Peters can't actually tie anybody to
20
actually
seconds.
being there, even though he claims Andrew Colvett is 100% tied to the fort, a guy who's never been there. Thus, the evidence doesn't support the conclusion. His conclusion is that TPUSA reps Erica Kirk and Israel worked together to kill Kirk, and we in no way ever get to that conclusion. I think that it's a bummer we only have 3 minutes to
That's
do
the
this,
time.
but okay.
Okay,
All right.
perfect. Stu, you have 3 minutes starting now.
So the reason why I took this debate is because Erica Kirk and Andrew Colvett and Blake Neff won't debate. Jack Posobiec won't debate. And apparently
Keep
you are
moving
the
your
paid
damn
shill to
screen,
come out here
son
and
of a
push
gun.
the idea that Tyler Robinson is definitely guilty and he shot and killed Charlie Kirk with his grandfather's stolen 30-06. You spoke of evidence and you spoke of claims. Jack Posobiec made a claim. He claimed that he saw a 4K HD video. Benny Johnson made the claim that you can see Tyler Robinson taking the shot and that this is an open and shut case. Fact is that there is no evidence that is convincing anyone that Tyler Robinson is in fact guilty in the shooting death of Charlie Kirk. And that is what has led to what I would say is inarguably the world's largest in history crowdsourced investigation into who it is that's responsible for the murder of Charlie Kirk. So, I mean, I can yield my time because I'm just interested in Andrew's debate points. So what evidence do you have, rather than shifting the burden on Stu Peters, rather than shifting the burden where I have to prove that it was a trapdoor and a magnetic force field and a drone swarm and an exploding mic and a second gunman on the Losi Center, rather than talking about Ana Escobar and Google search images, let's just talk about your evidence. What evidence is it, rather than shifting the burden onto me, that you want to debate that will satisfy the audience that Tyler Robinson definitely shot Charlie Kirk?
You have 1 minute, but I think you can yield the time. So let's do 1 minute rebuttal uninterrupted from Andrew, and then another 1 minute rebuttal from Stu, and then we can go to free flow discussion. Andrew, you have a
Y'all
minute.
killing me.
Yeah, so these aren't
Y'all
the
killing me
claims.
with this
Right now, there's a
shit.
trial going on. Neither of us have access to the totality of the evidence. So I don't even need to make the claim. It's not necessary. You have made actual claims here. You have claimed that Charlie Kirk was killed by a microphone. He was murdered by a microphone. Even though it's the case that when Jews did this and the Israelis did this and they had exploding pagers, there was smoke, there was all sorts of things like this. You have never provided a single piece of evidence for that absurd claim, not one in that claim. You're avoiding your claim for Fort Huachuca. You're not actually telling us how it is that you could make the claim that Colvett was 100% there. That's what you claimed. Do you have any evidence to support that other than Snow saying, trust me, bro? No.
Okay, so
how do you
what
get to
you're-
these conclusions, dude? How do you get to the conclusions of what it is that you think? Right now, we have a trial going on. And here's the thing, I'm
That's a
happy
minute.
to take.
That's a minute, Andrew.
hang
We
on,
can
real
do
quick,
free
let me just
flow.
clarify.
Let's give a
We
minute.
wouldn't be
We'll go to free flow.
talking
Stu,
about-
a minute from Stu, and then we'll go free flow. Go ahead, Stu.
We wouldn't be talking about any of this at all if you're here to debate the claims that Erica Kirk makes that Tyler Robinson's guilty, that Jack Posobiec says Tyler Robinson's guilty. That's the claim that has been made. That is the man who's on trial for his life. And there is no trial. Actually, preliminary hearings have taken place, at which point the prosecution was supposed to provide the most damning evidence possible to take this thing to a trial where they'll stick a needle in his arm or put him in a gas chamber or blow his head off or whatever it is that they're going to do so they can get him out of here. Jack Posobiec, Erica Kirk forgives this man as if he's already guilty. The claims have been made by everybody that pays you. You're paid by Turning Point USA. They apparently, nobody that likes them wants to do business. So they come and get a guy that hates them. You're on the record saying Erica Kirk is fucking retarded until the minute that you take a paycheck, and now she's the best at everything, and Tyler Robinson is definitely guilty. So we are here to talk about the evidence that you have.
10 seconds.
Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk.
No, that's not what we're here to discuss. We're here to discuss all claims being made. And if you
So
want to take, hang
Are
on,
you
hang on. If
telling
you want to
me
take 30
that
minutes,
you don't have any.
Just finished watching this debate, and honestly, it wasn't a good one. Stu answers every question with a question, and love Andrew, but he is married to the idea there is no conspiracy. I mean, all the evidence is pointing toward Tyler Robinson and away from a conspiracy. So, unless it's the best laid out, plotted conspiracy in the history of the world, if it's a conspiracy and someone planted all this to own Tyler Robinson, they did a magnificent job.
want to take,
Evidence.
hang on, bro, listen to what I'm saying. If you want to take 30 minutes to discuss your claims and then 30 minutes to discuss mine, I'm happy to do that. But you can't shift out of the burden of your own claims. Can we start with those? And then after that 30 minutes is done,
The
you
burden
can ask
is
me
not
whatever
on
it
me.
is that
the
you
burden
want.
isn't on me.
The
It's
burden
not
is on you for
Escobar.
claims that you've
It's
made.
not on
It's
Candace Owens. It's not on Baron Coleman. The burden is not on any of us.
Then let me just ask you directly.
That's not how
Did
these cases
Erica
work.
Kirk and TP, by the way, I don't work for TP USA. That's a lie. Secondly,
What do you mean? You
when
went on
you-
stream and said
Yeah.
that you took a job with Turning Point.
no, I didn't.
Yes,
I
you
went
did.
on stream.
No,
and
he
here's my
didn't.
exact words.
You're
I
denying that
I
you
have
went on stream and said that you worked
self-anointed
for Turning Point.
myself. I don't work for TP USA.
You didn't get
And
paid
I
by
never
Turning
made the
Point
claim.
USA.
Sure, to give a debate course.
Okay, so you've been paid by Turning Point USA.
So has their guys who mow their lawn.
Okay, well,
So they work for
that was
TP
the point.
USA too.
The difference
They work
is
for the
guys
Jews
that mow
too.
the
They work
lawn,
for the Jews because
the
they
guys
mow their
that mow
lawn.
the lawn, Andrew, are not saying on stream, and they're not saying on social media platforms with a big following that Erica Kirk's fucking retarded, and then automatically, and then turning quickly right after they get paid for their lawn job and the edging and the weeding and the blowing, that she's the greatest at everything.
When did I ever say that?
That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
When did I ever say that she's the greatest and the
have-
bestest
you-
at
you
everything?
have
Just making
completely
shit up, bro.
She's not retarded.
Sorry if I pause, right? Whenever I respond to you, 'cause I don't want to talk over them. That's where I stand as well. It's very unlikely, but I'm just at the point where nothing is off the table. If that makes sense, it makes sense. I get it. It makes sense, but it's wild. The conspiracies have been insane, right? I mean, we went from Israel did it to Egypt did it to Erica did it to an exploding microphone. When there's no evidence of any of that, but there is evidence of Tyler Robinson and his furry boyfriend. There's evidence of that, but the evidence for the other ones are not there. It's hard. Maybe they'll come up with something in the trial and be like, look over there, and we'll go, oh wow. But until then, I can't go down these rabbit holes with these conspiracies.
Anymore.
You're just
right?
making shit up.
She's
All
not
women are
retarded anymore.
retarded. All women are retarded.
Okay, so anyway,
All of them. Am
They
I
can't
stuttering?
find
Hang on,
anyone
listen
who likes
closely.
them.
All women.
they
So
can't
that would
find
necessarily
anyone who
include Erica Kirk are fucking retarded. All
Okay,
of them.
this is what your tactic is. You want to move away from what the debate core is. You want to shift the burden.
I want to know,
burden
first of all,
is,
do you believe that there was an
Tell me
exploding
how
microphone?
Tyler Robinson killed Charlie
Mhm.
Kirk.
Yeah, and
What's the
I'm happy.
evidence of
I'm
that?
happy to get to all these claims. Let's
Okay,
start
well,
with
that's what we're
yours.
here for. So start
You
there.
have
You
made
are the guy who's been
claims.
paid by Turning Point to come
You
here
have
and
made
tell us
claims.
how I'm crazy and Barron's
Mhm.
crazy.
Yeah,
and
so let's start with
everybody
your
is
claims.
dangerous.
When was Andrew Colvett
I don't have any
at?
claims. I'm
what-
investigating
was-
what
you
happened
don't
to
have any
Charlie
claims?
Kirk because I don't believe you. I don't
Was
believe
Andrew?
Erica. I
Listen,
don't believe
was
these people.
Andrew
The burden is
Colvett?
on you.
Was Andrew Colvett at Fort Tuchaka or not?
We're not here to discuss
Answer
Fort
the
Huachuca
question,
or
Stu.
flights or exploding
Was
mics.
he there
We're not
or
here
not,
to debate
Stu?
that. Are you
Stu,
telling
Stu,
me
was he there, Stu?
that are you wasting
Was he
everybody's
there?
time?
Was he there,
Do you
Stu?
not have any evidence that Tyler
Stu,
Robinson killed Charlie Kirk?
Stu, was he there or not?
Did Tyler Robinson
Was
kill
he
Charlie
there
Kirk?
or not?
Did
Stu?
Tyler Robinson kill Charlie Kirk?
I think the evidence supports that. Sure. Now answer my question: was Andrew Colvett at Fort Tachuca or not? Was he there or not, Stu?
Where's Andrew Colvett? Why won't
Answer
he
the
come out and
question,
answer that
Stu.
question?
And why don't you answer the question since you made the claim? Was he there or not?
Where is the
Where,
evidence that Tyler
Stu,
Robinson
answer my question.
Answer the question, Stu. Answer the fucking question.
killed Charlie Kirk?
Answer my question. Was
I'm
he
not
there
here
or
to
not?
answer your questions.
You're
I'm
not here to
debate
answer
you.
any questions about any of the things that you have postulated as being true.
You're not
you
here
can't
to
support a
answer any
single claim.
questions as to how it is definitely true that Tyler
I
Robinson
swear to
is
you, I'll
guilty.
answer all of yours if you just answer
You've
mine.
been on the internet demonizing everybody who's looking into
Yeah,
the murder of
'cause you
Charlie
won't
Kirk.
answer
You were begging
questions.
for Baron Coleman to come and
you
talk
won't
about how
answer any
Tyler
questions
Robinson is
about
so
your
guilty
view.
until I came into the chat.
Was
and I was
Andrew
like, okay,
Colvett at Fort
tell us
Tachuca?
how.
Was
Tell us
Andrew
how.
Colvett at
I don't
Fort
know if Andrew
Tachuca?
Colvett was
Then
at
why
Fort
did you say you
Tachuca.
were 100% sure he's linked to it?
Okay.
Well,
First of
answer the
all,
question,
do you
Stu.
know all of the evidence that you would have to ignore to consider that to be an outlandish consideration?
You said he was 100% linked. Was that a lie, Stu? Were you lying?
No, I wasn't lying. You
Okay,
said
great.
that
So then
Tyler
show me the
Robinson
100%
killed
link.
Charlie Kirk. Everybody
Show me
at
the
Turning
100%
Point has
link.
said that.
No, they have. In fact, here's the thing that's really funny. First of all,
Erica
I don't
Kirk
work.
forgives that
I don't
man.
work for
So if
TPUSA.
Erica
That's
Kirk
For sure, they're trying to muddy the waters. They're trying to get. They're throwing out so many conspiracies to give just a little bit of reasonable doubt, and I don't think it's going to work.
forgives him, then that
Mhm.
means that Tyler Robinson killed him. So where's the
Yeah.
evidence of that?
based on
Jack
the
Posobiec, who
supporting
works for
evidence.
Turning Point USA
Yes.
said, and
Yes.
none of these people, all these people are
I'm sure
cowards,
that
by
they
the
do
way. None
think
of them
that
will
he
come
does.
here and tell
Yes.
me how this is true.
Yeah, but
You're the
but
paid
you won't
guy
even
who doesn't even
support your
like
claims.
them,
You won't
who's out
even
here
support your claims
trying
now.
to lure people
Hold on,
into
a lot of
defamation
interrupting.
lawsuits.
Let's try to go one at a time
Okay.
right now. But
Go ahead.
You're the guy who's out here trying to lure people into defamation lawsuits to make specific claims. When the claim has been made that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk, it's been made by Erica Kirk, it's been made by Don Trump Jr., it's been made by Jack Posobiec, it's been made by other Turning Point paid shills just like yourself.
Who doesn't
So
work for
where is
Turning
the
Point?
evidence of that?
Yeah. Okay. Great. So I'm happy to get into all this. In fact, you know what?
Then that's where we'll
I'll
start.
promise you this. Can we do a question for a question? How's that?
that's fair.
That's fair. So here's my question.
I'm not
You
here
answer
to
it.
answer
I'll
your questions.
I'm not here to
debate
answer any of your
position
questions.
That Tyler Robinson killed Charlie
I'm not
Kirk.
here to answer any of your. Okay, here I'll start off. Okay, we have
Yeah,
text
so do
message.
you have
We have
evidence of that?
we have a text message confessions, Stu. Yes,
Okay, what else?
we have text message confessions, Stu, that they not only took screenshots of, but then they pulled the data off, which show that he texted his boyfriend and admitted to the crime, Stu. Text message confessions. Now I've answered your question. Please answer mine. Was Andrew Colvett or Erica Kirk at Fort Tachuca or not?
Let's talk about the confession.
Oh my God, this guy!
was made, because
are
I'm here
we
to
going to get some
debate.
moderation? If you
here
want to
to-
debate, you have to answer questions too, Stu. Answer my question. Was
I'm
he
here to debate whether or not Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. Because
I'm
that's the
here to
claim that
debate-
has been made
Yeah,
by the
and I'm
people
here
who
to
you
debate.
are out shilling for.
No, the debate
They won't
topic
come and
is
debate.
this
You said,
Charlie
"I'll come
Kirk
and debate."
assassination.
You said
And
I'll
so,
come debate. So
I want to
that's
know
what you're
your
here for.
claims. Answer my
Trying to shift
question
the
now.
burden. This
Answer
is
my
not-
question.
This is not debating the topic.
And
that we're
yes,
here
it
to
is
debate,
debating
which
the
is
topic. Answer
Tyler
my question.
Robinson killing Charlie Kirk.
Okay, you know what? Here, I'll try a different one. See if you can answer another one. Okay, so is it the case then, Stu? Do you believe that a small insect flew into Snow's room and it was actually secretly a government device?
Are you serious? None
Yes.
of this would be a topic of discussion if you could just tell us how Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. That's the claim that's been made by
I
Turning Point.
just gave you demonstrable evidence that was introduced at the preliminary hearing of text messages, which were taken from Tyler's phone, where he admitted to the entirety of the crime, Stu.
Did Tyler
all of
Robinson
it.
write those messages?
Yes,
How do you know that?
because the chain of custody of his phone he had in his pocket when he came in.
His phone was taken from him immediately, and then a confession was disseminated on Discord.
So
servers.
do you
How
think
does
that the
happen?
cops? You think that the cops sent them to themselves?
I have no idea.
Yeah, right.
I'm asking you if you have any evidence that
That is
suggests
evidence.
Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk.
Are you saying that those text messages aren't evidence of Tyler Robinson
I
murdering
have
Charlie
no
Kirk?
idea if those messages belong to Tyler Robinson or not. Do you have any other evidence?
Yes,
Is
they
there
pulled the
anything else?
data
What?
off the phone. They pulled his Google as well. They pulled his Google
There's
data.
no evidence.
Yes, there
that
is
suggests
evidence.
that Tyler Robinson
And not only
absolutely
is
wrote
there,
those
and not
text
only is there
messages.
evidence,
Is there
I
any
just
other
gave you
evidence other than
great.
text messages? Is that what we're
That's
putting
the
the whole murder
bro.
case
That is.
on?
I don't
It's a
even
death penalty
think
case.
that I would need to go beyond a text message confession. Besides the fact that what the hell would you even need to go past?
No obligation to anyone, but if you would like, donation links are pinned. No obligations though.
Then I texted my boyfriend that I
Well-
murdered this guy
Well, how
and
about
told him
this?
how I did it.
How about the fact that we were told that Tyler Robinson confessed to his dad, confessed to his mom,
Yeah.
confessed to a minister, confessed to a
Mhm.
U.S. Marshal, confessed to a sheriff?
Yeah.
So in a preliminary hearing, which
I didn't
is
see
the
that
equivalent
introduced.
of which is the equivalent of a grand jury, why would they not call any of those witnesses to say,
Because they didn't need to.
my son confessed that he
Because
killed
they
Charlie
because
Kirk?
they didn't need to.
They are to provide their most damning evidence during a preliminary
That's not the
hearing.
most damning evidence. The most damning
What
evidence
is
is
the video that
text
Jack
messages.
Posobiec saw?
No, the text.
Let me tell you, Jacob, I have been watching the TPUSA events, the pick up the mic events that they've been doing. It is terrible. The pick up the mic events with TPUSA are terrible. Just been absolutely the worst. Trump and the Republicans are pure evil. I mean, that's your opinion, Bert. I mean, I think liberals and Democrats are pure evil. So, I mean, we have a difference of opinion there. As long as you don't come over here and try to unalive me, then we'll be cool about it. You know what I mean?
Text message confessions, most damning evidence.
Then
And the
why
fact
would
that they were
Jack
able to pull
Posobiec
the
and
data
Benny
off
Johnson
of it.
come out and say that they saw a video. It's case closed. It's open and
Mhm.
shut.
Yeah, both
They
of those
saw a
guys were
video.
wrong. In fact, the
They
second
were
they
wrong.
said that,
You mean they
yeah,
lied? You
I
mean they
told them.
lied?
I told both those guys that was stupid to do.
There's
what the
a
hell's wrong
difference
with you?
between wrong and lying.
Well, what
one
Kai
team,
Schwimmer,
One
Schwimmer
side
said.
of our conversation
hang on.
today, the
Yeah,
side
And Jacob, to address that point, seems like the same crowd wanted them out of the spotlight. The liberal party that wanted them out of the spotlight. The ones that were getting TPUSA had a foothold in the school, had a foothold in schools, in the colleges, and they were making ground. So how do you stop them from making ground? You get rid of their guy that put them there. It's easy.
you're
Answer.
supporting.
Stu Peters not once backed up any of his claims. Didn't even try. No, he didn't try. So far, I didn't watch the whole thing. I didn't watch it. I just seen it, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to one of the other channels that has it because I can't watch it again on Andrew's channel until he goes up on the website." But I figured I would come watch it and see what was really going on. And so far, it's just a lot of circular talking from Stu. He's not really answering anything. He's just here to say, "Well, I don't know what happened, so you don't know what happened, so we don't know what happened, so that must not have happened because we don't know what happened." It's just stupid.
Is filled with liars. The side that I'm here representing is filled with people who don't believe the liars.
Okay, great. They
So
don't
they're
believe the
looking for
liars,
other
huh?
theories.
Would you
There-
say that a
there's
liar?
people talking about fold ARs,
Okay.
and there's people
Yeah.
talking about trap doors and
And they're
magnetic
talking
force fields
about-
and drone
yeah.
swarms and everything
Mics
else.
exploding.
Microphone. Yeah, all of that.
You
None of that would be considered if we weren't
You-
talking about a group of people who have continuously been caught lying,
great.
including something that they saw in a courtroom, which in my opinion should
Great.
be against the law. Jack Posobiec, in my opinion, should be arrested for that.
Great. He should be arrested for it. In what way, though? Does this in any way provide for your theories?
Trump 2028, I'd vote for him. I'd vote for him again. I agree with you, James.
That Andrew Colvett and Erica Kirk were at Fort T'Chaka, which you've said on stream hundreds of times. You said that there's a 100% link to Andrew Colvett and Fort T'Chaka. You've said this so many times, Stu. And now,
Andrew, are
when
you
you're in
telling
front of
me
the
that
world,
you don't
when you're in
have
front of the
anything
world,
here,
you won't
you're
say
in
a
front of
word.
the world. You've been running your mouth about how Tyler Robinson
Yeah.
killed Charlie.
Leslie,
No,
they
no,
can't.
all
We're
I've said is that the
backstage,
evidence
Leslie. They
supports it.
can't hear us right now. If
Everybody
you want
at
to
Turning
unmute.
Point from
Who the hell was that? Oh, I bet it's the guy's channel that I'm listening to.
Blake Neff to
Right.
Andrew
I'm not
Cole
a
to
Turning
Tyler
Point.
Boyer and Erica Kirk. That's
Right.
who I want to debate.
That's
You were
nice.
out-
What
were
is
out
you
it
tell
killing
me
saying
how
to
Andrew.
Taka?
Andrew
I'll
Colvett?
debate you. So
Can
here I
you
am
tell me how
asking
Andrew
you to
was
show me the evidence
Andrew
of Tyler Robinson killing
Colvett?
Charlie Kirk.
Was Andrew Colvett at Fort Tuchaka or not, Stu?
I'm not here to talk about.
I'm
Andrew
not here to
Colvett
answer any of your
and
questions.
Fort Huachuca.
I'm not here to answer any of your
We're
questions.
here to
Andrew.
discuss whether or not Tyler Robinson
All right, how about
killed
this?
Charlie
Do you
Kirk. He's on
believe-
trial for his life.
Well, look. Part of that is going
He's
to be
on
the
trial for his
elimination
life
of
while
other
Erica
things.
Kirk is crying and saying she forgives him, and while Jack Posobiec and while Andrew Colvett are saying, and Benny Johnson and Officer Tatum go into a preliminary hearing where for the first day there's no camera allowed, the same guys that were in the Epstein Phase 1 Bindergate Jew crew, and they came out and they said, we just saw a video. I saw it with my own eyes. Quote, you see Tyler Robinson pulling the trigger.
So what? So what?
It's another lie. There has
Yeah,
been
how does that prove
nothing
your
but
theories, though, Stu?
lies when even telling the truth would suit them better. Lying about alibis, lying
how does
about
this-
the dates when they were
How does
somewhere,
this
lying
support
about
any
drinking,
of your...
lying about
I'm going to grant
dating.
it, bro. I'm going to grant it. They're all a bunch of fucking liars. How does this support
Okay.
any of your theories?
Meryl, this is like us playing pubs. We can't make any call outs because we're talking over each other the whole time. Nobody understands nothing they're saying. What's going on right now? This guy's not making any sense. This guy's getting angry. This guy ain't doing shit. This guy ain't done shit. He's a terrible moderator.
There could be 6 million theories.
I'm
But the
asking you
theory
about
that
yours,
doesn't
Stu.
stick- the
I'm
theory that
asking
doesn't
about
stick-
yours, Stu.
The difference is in one of them, a man is on trial for his life, Andrew.
If
and
you held
these
the
are the people
same-
you're out here shilling for. You're
Yeah,
paid
Stu,
by these
If
guys
you,
to do
I'm not
this.
paid by him. Great, you're just lying again. So it's great, Stu. Start with this. Let's just start with this. This is really simple.
Did you take money
It-
from Turning Point?
Do
Andrew?
you to
Stop
teach a
lying
debate
about
course
that.
for
You're-
one
you're
day?
trying once again to displace Bird.
I literally trained a debate course for one day, which I do all across the
Okay,
world for people.
You've been
Stu.
paid by Turning Point.
So was Candace Owens. Candace Owens was
fucking
paid.
retarded.
Candace Owens was paid by Turning Point. What have we established?
I'll just say, I
Stu?
think Candace Owens could be Charlie Kirk's only real friend.
Yeah, but she was paid by Turning Point, hell of a lot more than I was. So that aside, here's what's really funny too, Stu.
Candace Owens
we're
is
trying-
cheering for
if
Tyler
we're trying
Robinson be
to
put down
eliminate-
like a dog for a
if
crime.
we're-
that he
Hold on, let's
very
try not to
obviously
interrupt.
did.
Let's
If
try
we
let's try not
started-
to interrupt. It's getting from both
Okay,
sides.
well let me try.
okay,
Let me try. How about just 1 minute back and forth?
Okay,
1 minute.
sure. Candace
All right,
Owens,
so we'll make it
Candace
easy.
Owens is not demanding that a man be put to death.
This is pretty close. It's pretty close. Probably 20 minutes or so in. Probably 20 minutes or so. It's been chaos, though. Nobody's there. We still know the same amount of stuff that we knew half hour ago. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
For a crime that he is alleged to have committed in which no evidence can connect him to committing that crime. That is what Erica Kirk is doing. Erica Kirk is the billionaire leader of Turning Point USA, the CEO of Turning Point USA. She is saying she forgives this man, Jack Posobiec, a Turning Point paid shill. He's at Charlie's desk all the time. They are saying they saw a video. They did not see a video. That makes them liars. This man is on trial for his life. I would like to know what evidence you have that makes you believe that you can run around saying that it's open and shut, that it's cut and dry, and that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk.
Well, first of all, I never said it's cut and dry and it's open and shut. What I've said is that the evidence
That's what Jack
supports.
Posobiec and
Well,
Benny
let's do
Johnson.
1 minute.
Stop,
Let's
bro.
do 1 minute back and forth.
You're
It's-
debating Andrew Wilson, not Jack.
Let's do 1 minute, Andrew.
Take
You
your
got
issues. Take your issues up with Jack Prosobic. Then with Andrew Wilson, you have to contend with my actual
they
worldview.
won't be.
You can't talk,
here
Stu.
because
I
they
gave you a
won't be.
minute uninterrupted.
Let's do
It's
1
my
minute back
turn.
and forth. Go
So
ahead, Andrew.
here's the thing that's really funny. I'm just going to grant all of this. They're all a bunch of filthy liars. Those lying bastards, always lying about lying, and then they lie on top of those lies. Great. How
Damn
does any of
liars.
this establish any of your theories? How does any of this disprove that Tyler Robinson fired that shot? How is it that when we have text message evidence and DNA and we have bullet fragments all pulled out and we have a medical examiner claiming he was shot, you run out there and say that he was killed by a microphone? You claim Andrew Colvett was sitting in Fort Tuchonka. You've made this claim many, many times. You say Erica Kirk is as well. Are you the liar, Stu? Because if you're not the liar, then look me dead in the eye and say that they were there or they weren't. But don't lie to me, man, and I won't lie to you.
Stu, you got a minute.
It's not incumbent upon anybody that's investigating the death of Charlie Kirk to prove that their theory is right. It is incumbent upon the people who are trying to hang a man, to kill him, to gas him, to shoot him, to put a needle in his arm, put him in a chair. It is incumbent upon the state. It's incumbent upon these people who have this man on trial to prove why it's an open and shut case. There is no evidence that links
Hey, Andrew.
the shooting death of Charlie Kirk. You know, you mentioned confessions. Nobody knows who wrote them. You mentioned DNA. Lance Twiggs' DNA is on it too. This guy's only been talked to twice by the feds and got immunity. He's just as much connected by way of DNA as Tyler Robinson is, but nobody's calling for him to be put on trial for his life. So why Tyler Robinson? Why this Patsy? They are demanding, she's forgiving, it's open and shut, it's case closed. I saw the video, it's 4K. You see him taking the shot.
That's
it's incumbent upon these.
Okay. So, I'll point something out with his flawed logic here. His flawed logic here, right? His furry boyfriend, Twig, his DNA is on the gun. And his DNA is on the multi-tool. And his DNA is on the towel. Yeah. I have a pew-pew over there. I have one. Guess what? Guess whose DNA is on that one? My wife's, my kids, my dad, my mom. Guess, you know, because they've all shot it. Guess whose DNA is on the towels? Mine, my wife's, my kids. Why? Because we all live in the same damn house. These people are stupid. They're absolutely stupid. Yes, we're all gonna have DNA on the stuff that's in our mutual possession, dumbass. Good Lord.
People to prove the guilt of Tyler Robinson.
Andrew,
it's not incumbent
you got a
upon
minute,
me
Andrew.
to prove
But it's not
that
incumbent
Andrew
upon
Goldberg
you
was somewhere.
people. It's
But
not
when you asked
Hold on,
these
hold on.
Oh, it's my
people if they
turn,
were on
Stu.
court with
It's my
Shuka,
turn,
Hold on. Andrew,
Shut
go
up,
ahead.
I
Stu.
just let you go. I didn't.
Go ahead, Andrew. Starting out, go.
So anyway, it's not incumbent
Do you-
upon you people to disprove anything either. The problem is that if you go about your day trying to disprove everything that the state says, and then you have alternative theories, you do have to prove those. Yes, you do, Stu. You can't say, "Well, I have a ton of
I can say
alternative
whatever the
theories,"
fuck I want.
which helps clear this guy. I have a bunch of alternative theories which will assist in helping to clear this guy, right? I'm trying to disprove it, but I'm not going to stand behind any of them. I'm not going to actually tell you what they are. I refuse to actually dive into my own worldview on this when I'm trying to disprove. By the way, if you held the same rigorous standards that you hold for the evidence requirement that you have for Tyler Robinson to be guilty for your own bullshit, you would never believe your own shit. You would never believe your own theories if you applied the exact same evidentiary standard that you apply for Tyler Robinson.
Wait, who is JP? I know who is. I'm drawing a blank. Who is JP? There are a portion of the rhinos for sure that are like that for sure. I don't even doubt that at all.
To the very things that you profess.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I agree. Jordan Peterson kind of fell off the kind of fell off the mountaintop though. He kind of fell off the cliff. Nobody talks about Jordan Peterson anymore. He went viral, and then he just declined, and nobody ever talks about him anymore. At least people that I'm around.
On your channel as being true. How is that possible, Stu? When you say there's no burden on me to prove, you do have to prove your claims, especially if those claims you're focusing on them to say that you're disproving what the state's case is.
Stu,
I have tons of evidence. I have text message evidence. I have DNA. I have
All right, Andrew,
bullet
that's good.
fragments.
So when you speak to the tons of evidence that you have, first of all, I already explained that.
Dealing with liberals will make you sick, Ziggy. I agree. Dealing with crazy blue-haired liberals will make you sick. fell off as soon as he signed with Daily Wire. But if he got sick, I understand it too. I wouldn't want to be running around if I was sick and all that stuff.
DNA, Lance Twiggs is equally connected to the murder of Charlie Kirk as Tyler Robinson is when you want to talk about DNA. The guy was already in custody when Discord messages are being sent. There was no confession. They said that he confessed. There is no confession. So, like, all of these things, they leave a whole lot of questions about Tyler Robinson. There is no definitive evidence.
There's no confession, he says. So, the handwritten note, the text messages, the Discord messages, so granddad's gun is all there, but there's no evidence. What did he need? Do they need 4K footage of him pulling the trigger to, I don't know.
That's why you can't come here and defend that position. You have to instead start talking about, 6 million different theories that people are looking into, because when you ask Erica Kirk, well, were you on Fort Huachuca? What does she do? She lies. She conspires with Andrew Colvett to produce a fake alibi for the wrong day with somebody else's kids and then hand them to some never heard of before Gary Melton, Paramount Tactical YouTuber, who literally outs that, yeah, it's confirmed Mitch Snow was on Fort Huachuca that day, and confirms that Andrew Colvett is his source feeding him information, rather than just saying, well, yeah, I was on Fort Huachuca because my mom, Lori Francefay, works there. Or, yeah, I was on Fort Huachuca bringing her a sandwich. Or I basically grew up on Fort Huachuca, so of course I was there.
That's a minute.
But instead she lies and produces a fake alibi.
Andrew, go ahead.
So
yeah,
when you're talking
okay,
about
my
asking
turn, Stu.
questions
Hang
and
on.
not getting-
The Candace Owen thing, it's like our sources 100% confirmed that he was on Fort Huachuca. But her same sources also 100% confirmed that Tyler Robinson was never on the campus that day. Her sources also confirmed that it was not even Tyler Robinson's pew. So her sources are shit in reality. Hey, and I don't even know how to say your name, but I'm going to say Annan. You can go ahead and quit that shit. You can go ahead and quit with the kid dealer stuff. I'm not interested in that conversation. We're not on that conversation. So if you want to have that conversation, you can go somewhere else. With all due respect, bud.
Answers. These are the people who need to be answering the questions, but they're cowards and they won't come out here and debate. So they sent you.
But they do.
Here's your evidence.
Andrew, go ahead. Andrew, go ahead. You got a minute.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Charlie Kirk.
They do.
Andrew,
They
go ahead.
do
You got a
ask
minute.
you. They do ask you for your evidence, and I'm just as connected to this case as you are, which means not at all. Were you some great friend of Charlie? Are you somehow super connected to this in a way that I'm not? What gives you the right to represent a view against TPUSA, but not for me to represent a view on their behalf if I agree with them? What?
Okay, so represent.
Hang on,
Sue,
hang
Sue,
on,
Sue.
Stu,
How is
Stu.
it that you
Hey, hold on.
My turn,
Let's do
Stu.
uninterrupted. Uninterrupted.
Yeah, chill out, Stu. What is
Come on,
it?
come on.
Well, how is it that you have some great authority as a questioner, but I have no great authority to question you with my own questions as my own form of questioner, questioning the questioners? Tell me where it is that you end up with this great authority and I don't. Why is it that you deserve to talk to these people, but I'm stuck talking with you instead of the people who profess most of this? You're stuck talking with me for the same reason I'm stuck talking with you. It's because the people on your side are too cowardly, the ones who actually profess this stuff, to stand by any of their views. You yourself, sir, will not stand by your own views right this second. You ask me for evidence, I give you tons. By the way, with Tyler Robinson, there was way more Robinson DNA than Twiggs. That's a lie. You say that these photos, you say that these photos,
testimony.
it's my turn, Stu.
Almost done.
You
You
say
got
that there's
10 seconds,
photos?
Andrew. 10 seconds.
You say there's photos there that were wrong. That's a lie. You're just making shit up, Stu, because that's what you people do. You just make it up.
Go ahead, Stu.
I'm MAGA. I definitely love America, and I'm definitely an American, and I don't care about your opinion. Your opinion is literal garbage, bro. Nobody cares.
What did I make up? What photos are you talking about that I made up?
You
I'm
said that
talking
Eric.
about
Hey,
guys
Andrew,
that
Andrew,
work for I'm
He asked
talking,
me.
No, I don't care about the 1 minute. You make some bullshit claim like that.
Mhm.
I want to know what the fuck you're talking
What
about.
photos do you
Furthermore-
are you claiming that Erica Kirk forged with kids that weren't hers? What?
Okay, so hey, I'm all for free speech, bud, But I'm gonna tell you this, my guy. If you keep coming in, if you keep talking about kid diddlers, then you're gonna be gone. I'm not interested in that conversation because you're full of shit. Because during that whole fucking thing, there were Democrats in there, there were Republicans in there. This whole only Republicans bullshit is fucking stupid. You're an idiot. Shut up.
You know that.
Yeah, only one of our groups is out there unaliving people. That's you. Shut the fuck up.
You know that picture with her finger over it? That was
Yeah.
the alibi. It wasn't on Fort Huachuca. The
Prove those
entire
weren't her
world has
kids.
Seen that. The entire
Prove those
world has
weren't
seen
her
that.
kids.
I mean, I can do it.
Prove
because
it. Prove it.
I can do it, bud, because it's my stream. I can just poof and you're gone, dumbass.
How do you know those weren't her kids?
I have seen the pictures of Charlie Kirk's kids.
That doesn't
Everybody
prove shit,
has.
Stu.
Everybody knows.
The
And
faces are obstructed,
It was for the
Stu.
wrong day.
The faces are
That's not an
obstructed,
alibi, it's
Stu.
for a
By the way,
completely
it wasn't for
different
the
day.
wrong. How do you
And
know it was for the wrong
actually-
day?
And
How do you
actually,
know?
from what I understand, it's already been confirmed from Turning Point that one of those kids, in fact, wasn't her. So you guys can't even keep your story straight.
No.
From the shill to the Turning
Okay, who
Point people
confirmed
pay
it?
you.
Yeah, who confirmed it?
From what I have heard, somebody in Turning
Oh,
Point
from
has
what you
acknowledged.
heard.
Yes, somebody
Oh,
in
great.
Turning Point. And you can maybe that's wrong. I don't know. But
Yeah,
I can
Steve,
see
yeah, that's
clearly
great.
that
You
these are
heard
not
it.
her kids.
Oh, that's great. You heard it from somebody who supposedly through the grapevine.
Andrew, even
This is great
regardless-
evidence, Stu.
Regardless if that's true or not,
Uh-huh.
she provided an alibi for the wrong day. She was
No,
using Andrew
bro.
Colbert to provide that alibi to Gary Melton.
Where did
where
where
at the
did
same time he
Yeah.
accidentally outed Andrew Colbert as
uh-huh.
being his source of information.
So you don't believe that
These
Erica
people
Kirk?
have lied when telling the truth
Yeah.
suits them better.
You don't believe
At
that
the
Erica
center
Kirk was at
of
the hospital
most
with her mom?
consequential political assassination of our lifetime.
Erica
These are
Kirk
the
wasn't
people
at the
who are
hospital with
lying.
her mom?
Tyler Robinson has not told a lie.
Dude, this guy will filibuster forever, dude, if you don't do the time.
Where-
I have a plan. Ignore the dumbasses in the chat. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna ignore the dumbasses in the chat. So if you ignore them, they go away.
There are Tyler
you wanna-
Robinson.
Why do I love felons so much? I don't know. I don't like women. Like that? Was that a good answer for you?
Answer
lies.
questions.
I can point out all kinds of lies. You're
You're just
here
gonna
to
filibuster,
tell
bro.
me why Tyler
You
Robinson
gotta enforce the
should be
time,
put
so
to
this
death
guy
for
will never
killing
stop,
Charlie
bro.
Kirk.
Okay, we're kind of
filibuster
we're
the
going
whole
in
thing.
circles with this back and forth about these claims.
And
Do you-
we will be, because the debate here was his position is that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk.
It
And I'm
still
saying
is. The
with
evidence
this
supports
entire
it.
Camp, all of the people,
Yeah,
all
the
of the
evidence
people
supports
at
it.
Turning- none of them will come out and say that. You're out here asking.
I thought
I'll
you
debate
said that
on
that's all they
I'll debate
say.
you on that. Do you want to come and have a discussion about that? Yeah, I would love you to tell me
Uh-huh.
where's all the evidence that Tyler Robinson should be put to death.
Yeah,
And you can't
let's
even
start-
do that.
Let's
So you
start
do
with
what
the
you always
text
do, which is the
message
shifting of
confessions.
burden. And
Yeah,
I
we
don't
have
even
to-
know.
We have
Nobody
text
knows that
message
Tyler Robinson
confessions,
wrote
Stu.
those text message confessions. They sound
Oh,
like
I
they were
know.
written by GP, chat
So who do
GP
you-
cop.
So who do you think wrote them, Stu? I don't know. Who could say?
Are you
The
ignoring
Jews.
fact? Are
The
you,
Jews wrote them, Andrew.
Okay.
Who do you think wrote them?
All of Trump's crimes that he was charged for were misdemeanors. They had to have a secondary or overlapping crime to be upgraded to a felony. First time it's ever been done that way, and they did it. It was 100%. It was 100%. I can't even think of the word now, but it was 100%. They were going after him just to try to get him off the election ballots. And if you don't think that's the truth, then you're wrong. You can look that up. You can look up the information that you have to have an underlying crime to be upgraded to a felony, and they were not there.
Bro.
Okay, so you must be ignoring the fact that our government continuously lies. Like, are you?
Okay,
Do you
great.
think
Yeah,
that
the
this audience
government
is a
lies.
bunch of
Who do you
idiots?
think wrote them, Stu?
I don't accept the government narrative. That
I know.
Tyler
Who do you think
Robinson
wrote
killed
them, Stu?
Charlie Kirk or
What's up,
any of
Eric?
the made-up evidence?
Who do you
like
think wrote them?
confessions.
Who do you think wrote
Why
them?
didn't his mom confess? I don't know.
Who do you think wrote
them.
them? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
who
the whole
knows?
point.
Who could say?
The burden
Yeah,
is on
they're
the
on
state
his
to prove
phone.
that
They're
Tyler
on his phone.
Robinsons.
They take pictures of him on the phone. Then they pull the data off the phone. That's not
Okay.
enough evidence for you, though, Stu, because at some point the Jews could have written them somewhere, right?
Okay, I thought you didn't want to do ad homs.
Appreciate it,
does
That's
this
Ziggy.
not an
come
ad
from?
hom.
The Jews are everywhere.
How is that an ad
Okay.
hom?
Because you know that's what you've been watching my show, That's what you want to do. You want me to get on a Jew chat, which I can do. If you want to debate the Jews, we can do that.
Well, all I'm doing is pointing this out. It's like, put in anyone you want. The blacks did it. Whoever, whatever, doesn't matter.
Okay,
whatever
so
conspiracy that you want.
Is Lance Twiggs's DNA on the screwdriver and the rifle?
It is.
Was
And
it on
very,
the phone?
and it's much lesser to a much
Was it
lesser
on the
degree than
phone?
Robinson's.
Was it on the phone?
I didn't see that in the preliminary.
So do you know if it was on the phone? Did
I
Lance
don't.
Twiggs write the
Look, Eric, this is not my normal content. I just stumbled upon this the other day, and I was like, you know what? I enjoy this kind of stuff, so I'm gonna keep doing it. But my main content is like gaming. I'm a PUBG streamer. I enjoy that, but I enjoy watching debates. And I was thinking to myself, if I'm gonna watch a debate, I might as well react to the debate. So if I'm watching the debate, I might as well react to the debate. So it's like it's a win-win on my side, especially if y'all are going to come in here and hang out and chat with me. Is your name No there or Not here?
confessions?
I don't.
I'm just asking questions. I'm just asking questions. Don't sue me. I'm just asking questions. Just asking.
Lance Twiggs riding around in an SUV planting Tyler Robinson evidence on Palantir property?
Do you have
know?
any evidence that
It's
Twiggs
not
was doing
incumbent
that?
upon me to prove.
Olivia, I have a new new short on my channel from part of the debate. Once it goes live to the public and comes out of their paywall, then I can show it. But I can show the whole stream. The stream was the stream from the other night when I watched that debate was insane. But I have a clip on there. It's funny. It's pretty good. I've got a bunch of them ready. I just haven't posted them yet, but they're pretty good.
That Tyler Robinson is innocent. Do
It
you
is the
understand how
second you
system
post
of
it as an
justice
alternative
works?
theory. As soon as you post it as an alternative
What do you
theory,
mean? That's
then
called an
it becomes
investigation.
incumbent upon you.
That's called an investigation. I'm not
And what
putting
have you
on
learned?
trial for your life.
I'll
You
tell you
people
what.
have this guy on trial
Yeah.
for his life saying he definitely did it.
And what have you learned in
The
your
criminal
great
justice system
Yeah,
in
what
this
have you learned in your
country means that it's
investigation,
the
Stu?
burden of the prosecution
Stu?
to show
What have
us
you
how he
learned
did it.
in what have you learned actually in your investigation here? What have you actually learned? Just that TPUSA is full of
I've learned a
liars?
whole lot of things. Oh,
What?
Yeah, of course they are.
Okay, what? What have you
Primarily.
actually learned?
I've learned a whole lot,
What?
but that's not what I'm here to discuss.
Yeah, what?
I'm
Okay,
here
so
to have
right.
You tell
I'm
me
here.
how
I'm running an investigation,
Tyler
but I
Robinson
can't even tell you
killed
what I've
Charlie Kirk.
learned. I can't even tell you what I've learned.
Let's
in
get
my
into the theories
investigation.
instead of getting into more personal claims. How about we get into? We haven't seen it spelled out, but what we actually think happened, or what is really going on. This is still going on. It's in trial. I would like to hear from both if you guys are okay with this. If we hear some theories and we hear what do you think actually happened? What's the truth?
So, but
Great.
hold on a second. To do that, what we're doing is we're prosecuting the investigators, which is millions of people who don't believe Turning Point USA that Tyler Robinson shot Charlie Kirk. There should
So-
be no problem providing evidence to
So he's not
argue,
going to give
to
you one,
debate
Nico.
that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. I
He's
talk
not.
about this shit every day.
He's not going to
I
actually
talk
give
about
you
this. I talk
anything.
about my perspective. What
Can
I
you
have
tell me what
learned
you think happened? then?
every single day.
I'll tell you what I think happened if you tell me what you think happened. Go ahead, Stu. What happened?
I talk about every single day what I've
Yeah,
learned.
what happened?
That's what I
Brett?
spend my. I'm here to debate you about.
I know, and I'm
Tyler
asking
Robinson
you what
killing
happened.
Charlie Kirk.
What do you think happened? That's what Nico wants to know. It's what the audience want to
We
know.
can
What do
find
you
a
think
point of
happened?
contention if we both spell this out. Then we can
Yeah, what
find
do you
a
think
way
happened,
to
Stu?
lead this
Tell us.
discussion.
What I don't believe happened is that Tyler Robinson shot Charlie Kirk in his neck bones of steel with his grandfather's stolen 30-06 and confessed to his dad and confessed to a minister and a U.S. Marshal and turned himself in.
Yeah. So what do you
Beyond
think
that-
happened?
Hold on, let him
Beyond
answer.
that-
Let him answer.
There can be all kinds of speculation as to
There was absolutely no microphone. Look, there was absolutely no damn microphone exploding. That's just laughable, bro. The race war was started under the Obamas. Go back and look at the rhetoric that happened from from 2012 or 2008 to 2012. Go look at that. Go look at that rhetoric.
What happened? I know that I have examined a whole bunch of interesting banks of data, including image searches, including flight tracking information. For example, Turning Point USA planes being on tarmacs in the middle of the night in airfields, the same airfields that were involved with the cocaine cowboy, with Iran Contra. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, they're on these airfields for 20 or 30 minutes. They leave there, they go to a bigger airport. Then they overlap 24 times, 24 to 27 times with aircraft that are owned by Miriam Adelson. They're on the tarmac with Miriam Adelson's planes for 1 to 2 hours. And then every single time Miriam Adelson's plane leaves and it goes to to Israel. I think that's really interesting. These are all types of different things that I have been investigating, and I would love to ask Turning Point USA about them because I think that they are relevant and pertinent. But it's not
that at a military base.
Where they soft tip 30-06 round, it absolutely is possible that it would not go all the way through, especially if it hit the spinal cord or hit the neck bone or the spine. It's possible. Can't say it's not possible. Unlikely, but it's possible.
It's not incumbent upon me to prove that that has something to do with the death of Charlie Kirk.
I'm starting to notice that. I'm starting to think that I'm starting to get a lot of lefties in here.
It's incumbent upon the people who are trying Tyler Robinson for his life to prove that he actually did it. So where's the evidence of that?
Okay, so here's
Aside
what
from a confession that we don't
I'm
know.
going to give you the same.
Okay, Andrew, go ahead.
I'll give you the same exact answer back. Here's what I don't believe, Stu. I don't believe a microphone blew his neck out. I don't believe that Snow saw anybody at Fort Tejuka. I don't believe that you can tie Colvette to anything. I don't believe you can tie Erica to anything. I don't believe you have a single credible eyewitness or alternative theory. I don't believe that you have anything, Stu. Nothing. I don't think your investigation has proven a single thing.
But what do you
not
believe?
One.
What do you?
Not yours. Not Candace's.
I don't believe
nobody's.
that the state's
In
prosecution
fact,
of
hang on,
Tyler
my turn.
Robinson has
My
proven
turn.
a single
Well,
thing.
the answer to the question is, what do you think
Has
happened?
proven a single
What,
thing.
Andrew?
Well, okay, but how come he didn't have to answer that question then, Sneeko?
He said he doesn't believe in the narrative, so he's
That's
giving.
not what happened. That's what didn't happen. I'm answering in the same way. So tell me, if he tells me what he thinks happened, I'll tell him what I think happened. I think that's
To be fair, it sounded like he was rejecting the official narrative. So I would like to
No,
hear.
to be fair, he literally refused to answer that question that you're now demanding that I answer, which is what happened. What do you think happened, Stu? What? What?
I just told you that I don't believe the official narrative. I answered your question.
That's
There's
not
been
answering
nothing
the
but
question.
lies. I have talked to you about Miriam Adelson's planes being with Turning Point planes and then going directly to Israel.
So do you think Miriam
27
Adelson
times.
had a hand in murdering Charlie Kirk?
Do you think that Tyler Robinson had a hand in killing Charlie Kirk?
Yes.
It's not me
Yes.
that has the burden to prove that Miriam Adelson or
man.
Erica Kirk or Tyler Boyer or Andrew Colvett or anybody, the Jews, it's not incumbent upon me to prove that these people killed Charlie Kirk.
Then how's it incumbent
Tyler
upon you to
Robinson
disprove?
on trial for his life? That is
Yeah.
how do you understand how the judicial process works in this
I
country?
do. Yep. Innocent until proven guilty.
So
do you understand how
you-
evidence works in
Do
this
you
country? That
understand
you
that
could
it
be
is the
guilty.
burden?
Yeah, you can still be guilty of a crime even if you're presumed innocent. In this
So-
particular case, we have lots and lots of evidence that you have not refuted. You haven't refuted the text messages. You haven't
Yes, I
refuted the
did.
DNA. You
Yes, I
haven't
did.
refuted any. Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's start with the easiest one possible for you. Is it actually impossible, Stu, that a 30-06 hit Charlie Kirk? Is that actually impossible?
Based on my experience with 30-06,
Uh-huh.
everything that I've seen with 30-06,
Uh-huh.
no, I don't believe that he was shot by a 30-06. And I think
Okay.
just 20 seconds ago, I said, I don't believe the official narrative. That includes a transgender, furry, homosexual climbing or scaling the side of a building in broad daylight without being detected.
Hang on.
Hold on.
Let's just start with the
Hold on.
30-06.
Stop, Andrew. I'm talking for a second. The left versus right thing is not a talking point that we have, bud. As a talking point of the Democratic Party, it's them against us. The right must be defeated at all costs. That's their moniker, not ours. But I don't know if you trust. I don't know what sources you trust, right? But can a 30-06 round stay lodged in the human spine from factuality? From fact, I can't even say the word. There has been. Let's see where to go through. Forensic literature and case studies document rounds that fragmented and lodged internally after striking dense structures. Medical reviews cited the commentators emphasized that bone impact, skull, spine, clavicle, ribs, pelvis often causes deflection or fragmentation sufficient to eliminate a near exit wound. It's there. It has been documented. It does happen. Whether you like it or not, doesn't matter. But it's been there. It is forensic evidence that it can happen. It doesn't have to happen every time. And it even says that sometimes they can malfunction and don't do it. But it does. Sometimes. Available reporting emphasizes three mechanisms that produce no exit wound: bullet deformation, expansion, especially soft point, or hollow point. Fragmentation into multiple pieces that dissipate energy and deflection of energy lost from striking a bone. It is a possibility. It's right here. I mean, hey, Mr. Jokes, my stream. Like I told everybody the other night, it's my stream. When I want to pause and talk, I will. When people are in the chat are asking me questions and I want to pause and talk, I will. If you don't like it, you can go find someone else that streamed it and then watch the stream and watch the debate. If you don't want to be here for what I'm talking about, you can exit stage left. You know what I'm saying? We're having a conversation. They're talking to me. I'm talking to them. We're watching the stream. We're dissecting and going over everything as we do it. This is a reaction stream. If I just play the stream from start to finish with no commentary, they can copyright me. Guess what? I ain't doing that. That's why I'm having commentary. So if you want the streams with no commentary, go to the Crucible and watch it. Oh wait, he deletes his VODs. So go find who else streamed it and figure it out. Okay? Are we clear on that, bud?
Let's just start with the
Using his
30 out
grandfather's
6. Let's do
stolen
one
30
claim
out
at a
6.
time.
I'm just telling you what I don't believe.
I
You just
understand
asked
you
me.
don't believe, but you see
said
what you
start with
did.
The easiest thing, the 30
Yeah,
out
and now
6.
we've got the easiest thing. You just made a claim. You do not believe. You say this did not happen. He was not
The
shot
burden
with a
of
30 out
proof
6.
is
That
not
is the burden of proof
upon
now.
me.
It is.
No,
The
it's
second you
not.
say that's not true.
Me proving Tyler Robinson innocent is not where the burden
No,
lies.
I
It
didn't
is
ask
you to
you.
prove
I didn't
that there
ask
is
you that.
evidence that
I
says
asked you
it's
to
an open and
prove-
shut case.
I asked you to prove it was impossible.
Turning
Stu.
Point USA is saying it is an
Yeah,
open and
Stu,
shut case, and
Stu,
that
answer the
Tyler
question.
Robinson is guilty.
Stu.
When you said
When
you
you
wanted
said-
to debate
bro,
that,
this guy's
I said
just gonna
I would be
filibuster
more than happy
forever.
to debate that.
Yeah, let's go
you
back
want
to
talk
times.
about exploding
Nico.
microphones.
This
You
guy
want
will
to talk
never,
about
he'll never answer
documented,
anything.
open source, irrefutable
I
data
know.
that
We'll
nobody can
you
explain
know what?
away.
I'm just going to sit here
You
and
want to talk
filibuster
about
too.
Google
then.
image searches.
I
You want
will.
to talk
I'll
about
read my
traffic
Hold on,
super
hold on,
chats.
hold on, hold on.
about exploding
know.
microphones.
Why not just address some of the
I
claims?
want to talk about what the claim is that you're
I'm
making,
trying to.
which is what I
Timothy, that's the whole point of the panels and debates, man, is to talk about it and express your own opinion. The opinion may not align with yours, and that's fine. My opinion is not going to align with yours because I'm not on the left. I'm not in the middle. I am on the right side. I am on the right, not the right side, but I am on the right. So just because you're not on the right doesn't mean that we can't get along. You know what I'm saying? I like the Z. What do you call it? It's the Z Squad, bro. It's a gaming community that I built, or that I started a couple years ago. It's just like a Discord server with a bunch of friends in it that we game together and hang out.
Said I would come.
Yeah,
here
I'm
and
trying
debate,
to,
which
but
is
you're
that Tyler
filibustering.
Robinson killed Charlie Kirk, and you
Yeah,
have
you're,
no evidence.
but you're
of that. So
filibustering.
You can just call me broke. You can just call me broke. That's what everybody calls me. Yeah, dude, I'm in the military. I have a lot of military buddies too, man. Guess what? It doesn't matter what they say because none of them are ballistics experts. They're experts at their field of shooting, but they're not ballistics experts. Forensic scientists that study this are. You get that? Just because I shoot really good doesn't mean I know the inner working. Nice to meet you too, Eric.
Where is
I
it?
gave you tons of evidence. You're not addressing any of it. Let's start with the 30-06.
I did.
Let's start with the 30-06. Is that possible or impossible? You say that it's impossible. Yeah, I heard you say that, the steel neck
I didn't
theory is
say it was
ridiculous.
impossible.
Okay, it's not impossible. then.
Based on what I saw, no, I don't believe that that's what happened.
You know, just for you, bud, I'm going to interrupt because, like I said, if I don't pause and talk, then we get copyright. Do you understand that? Or do you never stream at all? If you don't pause and talk and add something other than what they say, you get copyright and ban. Guess what I don't want? I don't want my stream to get copyright and banned. So go watch it somewhere else, man.
Okay,
I don't
so
believe
then,
that Tyler Robinson's lazy eye in his sniper abilities shot Charlie Kirk in his Superman
at 140 yards.
No, I don't. I don't believe that.
Did Martin Luther King have a super jaw?
I believe his grandmother when she said that she's never even seen Tyler Robinson with a rifle, with a
That never
30-06,
that
with
never
any kind of a
happened.
firearm.
That literally never happened. You just made it up.
But
Can
it
you
did.
show me
There's text messages about that.
where? Well, show me.
They're
are they?
on X.
Copyright claims are real.
Okay,
Somebody
they're on
See,
X.
this is
Tyler
worse now
Robinson's
because I'm talking
grandmother's
over him,
door.
right? This is what you want me to talk over him?
So can we talk about some of the? We're going back and forth the
Some of y'all-
30-06 and the different evidence and claims.
Yes.
I swear, some of y'all people come from Rumble. Some people are brain dead. I ain't gonna lie. What Andrew says about the Rumble chat, that's true.
We could
What
talk
about
the
start? I'll
30-06.
give you.
No,
I'm going to start.
I do
I'll
not
start with my
believe-
evidence.
I do not believe that the 30-06 was used to shoot Charlie Kirk in his neck. No.
Gotcha. Okay, understood. And Stu, are you a ballistics expert?
Andrew, you're not going to shift the burden here. It is
I'm not.
my responsibility.
You just said you
to
don't believe
prove
X.
Tyler Robinson's innocence.
I understand. Is
Do you
it the case
consider-
though
let
that
me
you
ask
just
you this.
said?
Do
Hang on, you
consider
can't
Rob O'Neill to
disbelieve
be an
something.
expert?
How am I supposed to
I
even
listen to
question this guy,
experts.
Sneak? Oh, you want to answer any questions? Are
Sure,
you a
I'll-
ballistic expert?
Do you consider Rob O'Neill to be a ballistic expert?
Which guy's Rob O'Neill?
Rob
Osama
O'Neill's
bin
the
Laden
guy that-
assassin. Fred
Yeah,
Miz.
he killed Osama bin Laden. He's been
No,
combat
he's not a
deployed
ballistics expert.
440 times. He
Yeah,
was
he's not
the
a-
range
no, he's not a
officer in
ballistics
charge
expert.
of the SEAL team.
Not
Okay,
a ballistics expert.
Are you a ballistics
no.
expert?
No,
Okay. Is Gary Melton a ballistics expert?
by his own
Okay,
admission.
Is Valhalla, is Erica Kirk a ballistic expert?
Nope.
But she said she was Tyler Robinson. So she
Yeah, but do
is
you
saying
see?
that's the
Yeah,
his
hang
job
on,
is
hang on.
You're welcome, Mr. Drokes. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Sobek a ballistics expert.
No, of course not.
Well, he
But
says that it's
so
an
we've
open and
all
shut
established
case.
that none of us are ballistics experts, right? We've established that. Great.
I don't
so
need
now,
to be a ballistics
let's
expert
get into the
for you to
expert.
tell me
Or
what
let's get
evidence.
into what.
Hey, if you go ahead and subscribe, Mr. Drokes, when you come back, I can insult you some more because it's fun sometimes, you know. Sometimes we gotta have some back and forth and some calling each other shitheads, dumbasses. You know, sometimes that's fun. That's what men do. We don't cry about it. But you're more than welcome to cry, but I'm not gonna cry about it.
But
proves that Tyler Robinson
going
killed
to
Charlie
give it
Kirk,
to you.
and that's what you said
Bro,
you were here to
You have
debate.
to stop talking, or I can't give you the evidence. Do you want it or not?
You're
So
asking
look-
me if I'm a ballistics expert and if I believe that
Yeah,
Andrew
yeah,
Kovitz
yeah. I
smoked
just want a
cigarettes
yes or no
at
would be
some
fine.
fort in Tucson.
Yeah.
Where, when he, by the way, when he said that and pretended that,
Are
he
we
had
ever
no
going to get to
idea
the
what
evidence?
Fort Huachuca
Stu?
was.
Stu, are
Do
we
you
ever
know
going to
that
get to the evidence?
immediately
Stu?
after that?
You're just still you're prattling, bro.
This is when the
Oh my God.
TPUSA plane actually landed on Fort Huachuca.
Yeah. Can we get to the evidence
But
now?
he's going to pretend he doesn't know what that is.
So let's start with the 30-06. Are
Okay.
you aware that the U.S. Army has released many studies on the 30-06, including a very comprehensive
I don't
study?
care. That does
where they
not
went
connect
over-
Tyler Robinson to the
bro,
shooting death of Charlie Kirk, which is
I
what
don't,
we're
all
here
right,
to
we'll do a
debate.
time limit, Sneeko. The guy won't even let me speak. He just
we don't have to do the
filibusters.
time. You seem like you both abandoned it, but let's just.
I'm not going to sit here and read you studies from the government to prove
What are we
that
supposed
Tyler
to
Robinson
debate
is
then?
innocent.
We're supposed to debate what? You won't even go over
You
the
made
evidence
the claim
with me.
that Tyler Robinson shot Charlie Kirk.
I'm trying to go over
claim.
the evidence,
You're all
but you
over the
won't
place.
stop
You're online
talking, bro.
saying that. So what's the evidence?
The evidence.
You're
Let's
talking
go
about
over it.
citations from the government. You're
Yes,
talking
citations from the government
That's
who
not
used that
evidence.
caliber in 3 wars, Stu.
That's not evidence that Tyler
It's
Robinson
massive
shot
evidence
Charlie
that
Kirk.
this is not only
Jacob, I'm not getting any links on my side. It may be the link protection stuff that I have in. I don't know, but I'm not getting any links. There's no links coming through. Absolutely no links. So, I mean, I would like to. What's the video? I haven't spent any time, bro.
possible.
I
but
am
when we take
living
the
my
150
life over
grade
here.
core lock Remington,
It's
we
possible
look at the
that
minute
Jewish
of
space
angle.
lasers killed
It's
Charlie
not
Kirk.
only
That's
it's
not
not only
evidence.
possible, it's likely. And let's point this out too. When you say steel neck, Martin Luther King must have had a steel jaw then, because it stopped there too, Stu. He stopped at 30-06 round too.
None of
Did
what
he
you
have a
just
steel
said-
jaw? Did he
None
have a
of
steel
what
jaw?
you just said is evidence that Tyler Robinson shot
No,
Charlie
the
Kirk.
evidence for that would be his confession.
That
Remember
sounds
when
like
he
an
confessed?
investigation.
Do you remember
actually.
when he confessed, Stu, via text message? Do you
No,
remember when
I
he
don't.
sent text messages to his boyfriend and laid out the entirety of it? He said that he ditched his rifle. He said that he shot Kirk. He went through the entirety of everything
No, he
that he
didn't.
did.
said,
Yes, he
I
did.
did it. He never said what he did.
He did what?
said, "I
What do you
did
think he did? What do you
I don't
think he
know.
was referencing? I don't know.
I have no idea. It is
I
not
did
incumbent
it.
upon me to prove
Yeah.
what he meant.
Yeah, I did
That's-
it.
It's the
Yeah.
prosecution's burden to
Uh-huh.
prove what he meant when he said, I did it.
He meant
But
he
here
meant
you
he
go.
was he
But
meant
here
he
you
was going to go
You
get
said
ice
he
cream.
went through in great detail about what he
Uh-huh.
did and all this. He said,
Yeah.
I did it. He didn't
Yeah.
say what he did. So
No, he
just
he
like
did.
Jack Posobiec misrepresented, just like Benny Johnson said that it's open and shut. We saw it. He pulled the trigger. You're now just making shit up. He
No,
said, I
bro.
did it. What is the
He-
it that he did? And how
He
can you
references
prove it?
exactly what it is that he did.
How can you
So,
prove that he
it's
wrote
really
any
funny.
message at all?
It's really funny. Well, the state says that they pulled the data off his phone after they collected it from
Okay, well,
him.
Well, a lot of people say a lot of things that aren't true. Erica
We'll
Kirk
look
says
it
that
up
she
in a few
didn't
minutes.
date or drink, and she
Don't
was
you think
on
that the
a national
prosecution
television
might have
show
brought
that
dating
up?
and drinking.
Don't you think the prosecution would have brought up during the preliminary hearing those weren't his messages if they weren't, Stu?
Don't you think that the prosecution's
Answer the
job
question,
at the
Stu.
preliminary hearing is to provide their most damning evidence? We've seen the totality of
I'm
it.
asking
What
about the
is it
defense.
that
Why
convinces
didn't
you
the
that
defense
Tyler
say that,
Robinson
Stu?
shot Charlie Kirk?
Why didn't the defense say these messages are not authentic? He did not write them. Why didn't they say
Because
that,
it is
Stu?
not the defense's job to do that. Again, you
Yeah, it
don't
is the
understand
defense's job to
judicial
do that.
process in this country.
Bro, that is
A
the defense's
preliminary
job.
hearing is the equivalent of a grand jury. It is
And
not
does the
defense's
defense get
job.
to
It is not the defense's turn to put on a show and talk about how innocent Tyler Robinson is at a preliminary
Ran
hearing.
over this guy.
So
It
so
is
let's
The
pretend you were at a
prosecution's
grand
job to prove that there is
Yeah.
enough evidence to put him on
Uh-huh.
trial for his life.
I got it.
And
So Stu, let's pretend for a second that
Do you
you're in a
acknowledge that
grand
that's right?
jury. No,
Hold
that's
on.
not correct. It's not correct. I'll
not?
show you. I'll prove it.
sure,
So let's pretend that you're at your own grand jury hearing for them to see if they're going to send you off to trial or not, or a preliminary like this. Would you, if you were in Tyler Robinson's position, have wanted your lawyers to introduce that the one smoking gun that they have over all else, which is text messages, weren't even Tyler Robinson's if they had some evidence to that? Wouldn't
it
you,
would be
Stu?
completely unprecedented and totally out of order.
How would it be
and against the
unprecedented?
rules, 100% against the. This is not the judicial process.
Yes, it is the
In a-
judicial
first of
process.
all,
Why
grand
couldn't they
jury
do that?
indictments are secret. Okay, so you don't go appear before your grand jury.
I said preliminary, Stu.
Okay, preliminary hearings are the equivalent of a grand jury. It is the prosecution's job to show the defense and the court all of the evidence to exhibit whether or not there is enough evidence for the judge to say, yes, this guy should go on trial for his life. So we have seen the totality.
And it's the defense's job to tell them, no, this is wrong, and then provide evidence of the other way. If you don't do that, then you're going to go to trial with the evidence that they have on you. So if you have evidence to prove that you didn't do it, why would you not? I don't know.
Totality of all of the evidence that the prosecution has.
Text messages.
What is the evidence that you say proves that Tyler Robinson shot Charlie Kirk?
I've never
with
heard of
his
that.
grandfather's
Well, we would do-
30-06
yeah,
from the
great.
rooftop of the Losi building.
Yep. The fact that he said that he did it
Where's
in
the
text
footage
messages.
that Jack Posobiec says that he saw?
The fact that
Where's
he
the
said,
footage
yeah, so I'm
that-
trying to give you the evidence.
Why the
bro. You
need to
just don't
lie
ever
about
shut
that?
up. You never stop talking, just filibuster. So here's the evidence. The evidence is we have his DNA on the scene. The
Okay.
evidence is that he sent all of the text messages over. The evidence
Charlie-
is overwhelming in that regard.
Okay,
He
so-
sent the text messages to them. They
Okay.
pulled the data off the phone,
Sure.
right? I don't
Okay,
know,
so
like, what
I'll
else
accept
would you
that.
want?
I'll accept that. So you've got early on. What day was it that they talked about the confession, by the way?
Why would
Do
that,
you
why would
remember
that
what
be
day of the week
relevant
it was?
to the confession?
Well, because Monday through Thursday, we saw the preliminary hearings where it's the defense's job to sit and listen to the prosecution present their case against their client. It is not their job to argue their client's innocence. And by the way, that is not how the judicial system works. Once again, in this country, it is to prove a man guilty beyond the shadow of a reasonable doubt. Do you agree with that?
Yes, that I agree
Okay.
with.
So on
Well,
Monday,
I mean,
Tuesday,
well, no,
Wednesday, or
beyond
Thursday,
reasonable,
while we were
beyond
watching the
reasonable
preliminary
doubt.
hearings,
Hang on, that's two. Beyond reasonable doubt, not a
beyond
shadow
reasonable
of a doubt.
doubt. Okay,
Yeah.
beyond reasonable doubt that he's guilty. That's their
Yes.
job, to provide the totality of the most damning evidence that they have
Yes,
at the preliminary hearing.
yes, that's
Monday
part of
through
it. Yes.
Thursday, when cameras were allowed in the courtroom,
Mhm.
we heard a lot about DNA.
Yeah.
We heard about all the magic tricks, by the way, that were done on the DNA to make Tyler Robinson show up in the first place.
There was no
Versus
magic tricks.
Only Lance Twigg.
That's just
It
made
was-
up.
It was quite the explanation. It
No,
was a big
really
process
wasn't.
that went into that. That was kind of a outside.
No,
of the
there really
standard-
wasn't a big process that
outside
went
of the
into it.
standard. Are you a DNA expert?
No, I listened to the testimony. What is the
Okay.
big?
All
What
right,
is the big kerfluffle? What was the
Yeah,
magic
well,
trick?
Big kerfluffle was when on Friday they turned the cameras off, and here comes the Bindergate crew rolling into town. Officer Tatum, Jack Posobiec, Benny
Uh-huh.
Johnson behind closed doors with no cameras in there. Don Jr., they're all there putting on quite the
So?
spectacle for the Fox News people.
Yeah.
And then they come out and they said, "We saw the video. We saw it
What
before."
does that have to do with the DNA, Stu?
Because the DNA, which isn't enough, because I don't know how it got there.
Wait, how did we
Okay,
get
so-
to the DNA from this? What
Okay,
are you talking about,
Listen,
dude?
none of what we have heard, none of the bullshit that you're spewing as the guy who's paid by Turning Point,
Who's not paid by Turning Point?
none
Lie
of
again.
what the prosecution said in the courtroom is
Uh-huh.
enough to convince anybody that Tyler Robinson
Yeah,
shot
but Stu,
Charlie
you
Kirk.
just made a claim. You
Which
just said
is
that they did a
why-
bunch of magic tricks to the
which
DNA. I
is
asked you
why-
what,
hold on.
and you said Jack
Okay,
Posobiec went in and
Let's say
lied to the
no
camera
magic
about a
tricks
video.
were done. Let's say
What?
no magic tricks were
Okay,
done,
great.
and
Let's
Tyler
say none.
Robinson's DNA was found on a gun that apparently is his own. Okay, great.
Uh huh. Yeah.
And we can get to that.
Okay.
my
Let's.
my DNA is on this pen.
Uh huh.
If my audio video guy comes and takes this pen and walks out and stabs somebody,
Yeah.
my DNA is on it. Does that mean that I stabbed that person? No. Okay. Well, anyways, none
What?
of the evidence
What
that
does
was
that have to do with
presented-
anything?
None of the evidence that would, because the DNA wasn't enough.
By itself, it wouldn't be
the
enough.
confession
The
wasn't
fact
enough.
that he happened to,
Everybody
you know,
knows that it's not enough, which is why
Yeah.
Jack Posobiec and Benny Johnson lied. It's why they misrepresented.
I don't think this guy understands what oh my goodness, a purportness of the evidence means. It's everything. You have all of this evidence, not just the DNA, not just the rifle, not just the note. You have a lot. You have videos. You have everything. There's a lot.
Presented what happened in the
that's
courtroom.
just, bro.
That's
That's
why they came out
you
of the
see how you
courtroom
get
and
to a
lied, because
conclusion?
They know
You
that
see
what
how you
has been
that
shown
makes
is not enough evidence to
bro.
convince anybody
Stu.
that putting this patsy to death is
How did you get to the
reasonable.
conclusion, Stu? How do you get to the conclusion that because
Jack Posobiec
it wouldn't
lied?
be enough, it wouldn't be enough if some guy out in your
All right, Timothy Travis, the guy with two first names, calm down. Relax. Relax. Relax.
Your parking lot, stab somebody with your pen that your DNA was on it, that somehow that means Jack Prosovic has to lie about seeing a video. That
Okay,
conclusion doesn't follow from what you just said. What are you
Your
talking
slow
about,
brain
Stu?
isn't following. DNA is not enough.
We said no ad hoc.
If my DNA is on the pen,
Uh-huh.
somebody goes and stabs somebody with the pen,
Yeah.
is my DNA being on the pen enough to put me on trial for my life?
No.
Okay, there isn't enough. That is the reason why nobody believes.
No, but yes, that's not enough. You're right. That's not enough. But however, if I have video of you walking up to that guy, okay, or video of your producer walking up to that guy, and then the video magically cuts away and then comes back, and then 20 seconds later, that guy's unalived on the ground, and you're walking away with the pen, and they go, oh, it was a pin stab to the neck. I would know. I could put two and two together. I don't have to have. Good
believes that
Lord.
Tyler Robinson killed him with a 30-06. The public won't believe that.
What
This
are
is
you
why-
talking? Well, that
this
has
is why
nothing
Jack
to do with
Posobiec-
anything.
It's why they felt the need to lie. They know there's not enough. The
Bro,
burden of proof
what
is not
is-
on the people
what-
who are investigating what
okay,
really happened to
Stu,
Charlie. The
what
burden
is-
of proof is on the prosecution, and there's not enough evidence. I want to
Stu.
know, what is the evidence?
Yeah, we'll go through the evidence again.
You're saying it's overwhelming.
When you say it
The
is the
confession,
case,
that
when you
wasn't
say,
enough.
bro,
The DNA wasn't enough.
Nico, you got to
The grainy
moderate at
video
some point.
wasn't
Dude. This
enough.
guy's not allowed to just
None of it was
filibuster
enough.
the
You're
entire
right.
There's interruptions
time.
on both
Tyler
sides. Like we're not even able. If we have to be.
This is a filibuster. He won't even let me respond to the things he asked me. We asked me a question, then he answers the damn question he asked me.
No,
So
that's
the thing
exactly what
is
you're
like,
doing.
look, here's how it works, bro. You're right. DNA is not enough. A text message confession, along with the fact that Tyler Robinson was in the area, which is very strange, right? We have his vehicle that's there. We have him there. We have the rifle that happens to be his grandfather's in the woods. Boy, nothing suspicious here. On top of all of that, we have his text message that is going to his boyfriend, right? Everything is pointing at Robinson, which is why you can't even support your
I
alternative
think
theories
there's
that
a
you've
lot of
been
suspicious
postulating.
things about the 30-06 and it being his grandfather's. I think there's a lot of suspicions
What?
about the property that the rifle was placed
What?
on. I think there's
What?
a lot of suspicions about how Tyler Robinson.
Let's
was able
start
to
with them.
navigate. Okay, sure.
Let's start with
I'm
just the
telling you right
suspicions
now.
about the rifle. What are the suspicions?
Okay, well, is it his rifle? Is it his grandfather's rifle? Is it ostensible, of course, that plausible that his DNA would be on it? Does that mean that he used it to murder Charlie Kirk?
Well, how did it get there, Stu?
How can I tell you how it got there? Did
Do you
Lance
think-
Twiggs bring it there? Because his DNA is on
So,
it too.
so Twigs, you think that Twigs brought it there?
I didn't say that. It's not incumbent upon me to prove that Lance Twiggs
Got
brought
it.
anything anywhere because he's not on trial for his
Do
life.
you know
still
that
don't understand
we
how
still
the
use
judicial system
inductive?
is supposed to
Yeah,
work
we
in this
use
country.
induction.
You're not
Stu.
supposed to railroad.
We use
patsies.
induction.
By the way, Timothy, it's not Paul and that's not his channel. It's Pimp. Not Paul. Paul is his second channel. Pimp is his main channel. The only one that he's live on. The other ones are not live. So it doesn't.
You're supposed to use evidence.
We use induction. If Tyler Robinson Tyler Robinson
What is
rifle
the
there,
evidence
text
that
message from Tyler
Robinson-
Robinson saying that he ditched his rifle there, we can use inductive reasoning to put him both there on the scene. We can also have his rifle on the scene. We also have the bullets that he inscribed with his own Dremel gun on the scene. Boy, that's a huge series of coincidences, Stu. I'm
We
glad that you
also-
have tons of alternative theories that are much better. Oh, wait, you don't.
We also have Lance Twiggs' DNA on the murder weapon. We
Uh-huh.
don't see Tyler Robinson with a murder weapon. We don't see Tyler Robinson with a rifle at all. We don't see anybody holding a rifle. We have a 30-06 that has dust in the barrel. which
Why would
somebody
you
was
need-
never shot?
Yeah.
Did you know that? Did you consider that evidence? You're
Yeah.
like, there's
Hey,
nothing
hang on.
suspicious at all.
Yeah,
but
let's
there's
start
a lot
with
of
that.
things
Hey,
suspicious.
here,
Hold on.
let's go over that.
Hold on.
Dust
There's a
in
lot
the
of things
rifle
suspicious.
bore.
You asked me what's suspicious.
I'm gonna-
trying to
I
tell
wanna
you,
do
and
one
now you're
point at a time.
filibustering.
I want to do one point at a time.
Let's,
So
let's
do
stick to the dust in the rifle. Let's
Yeah,
hear it.
so
But
guess-
you're-
It was
Go ahead.
ditched in a forest, Stu. Guess what? Exhibit
This debate was on. Uncle Tom.
in forest, dirt and dust. Wow, this is mind blowing. Also, point two: just because you fire a rifle doesn't blow out all the dust, Stu. It doesn't
How do
blow
you
it
know
all
that?
out, bro. I don't know what
How
the
do
hell
you
you're
know that?
talking about. Because, man, I've been working on rifles my entire life.
Okay.
You could take your granddaddy's 357,
Okay.
go
How did it-
outside
how
from
did it
30
get
years
on the
ago,
roof?
shoot it.
How
What?
did it get on the roof? The rifle.
Tyler Robinson took it up on the roof.
How do you know that? Is there video of that?
Yeah.
There's video that
No,
appears
you
to
just have
be
the feds telling you
yeah.
that.
You wouldn't actually need
The
this.
feds are just
Even if I grant this to you, this doesn't even help your case. You wouldn't even need video
have a
of
case.
Robinson specifically
the
being
state has a
up there.
case against
Yeah,
Tyler
again.
Robinson, and he's
Okay,
on trial
great.
for his life.
They also would not actually need to demonstrate via video. Most crimes are not solved with video. They would not even need to demonstrate that he went up there with the
They're
rifle. They would
showing
never
us
even
video
need to
as part
demonstrate
of
it.
this propaganda case that
Yeah,
they're
right.
running.
But
They're
you're
showing
saying
Timothy, this is the guy you want me to go talk to? Who's looking like who's got a fucking camera from 1700, dude.
because
video.
you can't
You can't
reference
even
it.
get
That's
some
not
good
good enough
quality
evidence.
Here he is
video?
3 times
Get
on
outta here.
campus.
Yeah, but
That's what they're
again,
using
talking
as
about.
Yes,
propaganda to put him on
but
trial.
they wouldn't even need it, Stu.
Is
They
being
wouldn't even
on
need it.
campus a crime?
They wouldn't even
How does
need
being on
it.
campus and being on video connect you to the shooting death of Charlie Kirk?
Because your rifle's
Nobody
found
can
in the
answer that.
forest when you send your text message when you send your boyfriend a bunch of text messages saying that you killed the guy. That's
He
how
didn't
they
say that
tied
he
it
killed
in,
the guy.
Stu.
He said, "I did it."
Yeah, I
He
did
didn't say
what?
that he killed the guy.
I did what? I went out and played Pogs with my friends.
You asked me if there was anything suspicious
They're
about the rifle.
they're
There is a lot of
specifically
suspicious
talking
things about the
about-
rifle.
They're specifically
dust in
talking
the
about
barrel-
what happened to
The
Charlie
dust in the
Kirk.
barrel
and
is
he said, "I did it."
suspicious.
Okay, we're
The
almost
dust
out
in
of
the barrel-
time.
dust in the barrel
We're-
is suspicious.
Yeah, from being left in a
Being
forest.
placed
Stu.
on Palantir property is suspicious.
It wasn't
somebody
placed on
else's
Palantir
DNA.
property. That's
We're
not
almost
true either.
DNA.
Hold on, both of you. We're almost out of time. I would like to ask about Candace Owens and her investigation from almost the past year. If you want to, I'm curious both of your opinions on Candace Owens' investigation. If we can conclude on that.
I
Well,
hope she
it
goes
hasn't-
Max. I hope she
It
keeps
must
going.
not have gone so great. The defense hasn't even reached out to her, is what I'm told. And interestingly enough, just like with Stu Peters, not one single shred of new evidence
Wait
that
a
these
minute,
people
based on what you're
uncovered that
told.
they actually back. None of them actually back their own theories, conjectures, evidence, nothing. And they just say there's no evidence for Robinson, even though you pointed out a million times to them that there is. They don't even have reputations for that.
I agree.
So when you're talking
I
about
do.
Candace Owens, she has not.
We just
solve
spent the
the
last
case.
hour here
Detective
of me
Owens-
refuting all of the evidence
haven't
that the
refuted
feds
shit.
have told us exists to
You just said,
convict
how do you
Tyler
know?
Robinson and has Erica Kirk forgiving him. I just
Yeah, but
refuted
that has
every single
nothing-
bit of it. I told
That
you all
doesn't
of the
do. That does
inconsistencies.
nothing
Just
for your position.
keep
Stu.
interrupting. You keep interrupting.
That I was in the
And then
middle
you
of
accuse me
talking.
of
Am I interrupting your interruption?
Yeah, you're saying
Okay,
that
we
nobody
have about
has
10 minutes
been
left. I'm
able
going to bring the
blow
timer
holes
back.
in
Let's
any
do.
of the evidence.
But we have about a little less than 10 minutes left. Let's do about the 1 minute timer. I want to see both of your opinions about Candace Owens' investigation. Let's start with Stu. If you have 1 minute, please go.
I hope that she goes Max. I love it. You know what? This might be the only friend that Charlie Kirk actually really had. It's my opinion that the people around her weren't really her friends. The people around Charlie Kirk definitely weren't really his. I haven't seen any mourning at all, and I don't know how Andrew Wilson is claiming that the defense hasn't contacted Candace. I would be interested. Who told you that? Who told you that?
Candace said it on her show. They can contact me, and they clearly didn't.
You said that what you heard. So you're talking
From
about
the
Candace
source.
previously saying
This is the source.
that at that point. Oh, okay.
This debate is almost over. They got about 4 or 5 minutes left. So anything else you want to see, let me know and we'll watch it.
Because you said that.
That's the
from
source
what
is
you
Candace.
understand.
Yes.
Okay.
That would be
So
the source.
when she said that, the
Yeah.
defense hadn't contacted her.
Okay,
Yeah.
Andrew, go. You have a minute uninterrupted about
Okay,
Candace
yeah,
Owens'
great.
investigation.
So this is super easy, right? They haven't uncovered shit. Nothing. They just make these claims of like, oh, Charlie Kirk's friends betrayed him and they were mean to him and they actually secretly hated him and all this bullshit, right? But they never demonstrate any of it, ever. They've never been able to tie a single member of the TPUSA team, nor Erica Kirk, nor anybody else other than Robinson to this. Not one fucking person have they been able to tie to this from TPUSA. Nobody.
Including,
No, hang on.
including
Stu,
Tyler
Stu, do you
Robinson.
know what the word uninterrupted means? That means it's my turn. So thing is funny is like they haven't uncovered anything, nothing. All they do is say TPUSA is lying about this. They're lying about that, blah, 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 blah. TPUSA is also, it's not incumbent upon them to investigate this. It's not incumbent upon them to do law enforcement's jobs, not incumbent upon them to do any of that. You can call Erica Kirk a liar because you disagree with her theories, but I can't say you're lying because you won't support any of your theories. That's hilarious to me. You just say it's not incumbent on me, but somehow it's incumbent on them.
That's crazy,
That's an
Eric.
insane position. They've uncovered Nothing.
Stu, go ahead. You have a
Nothing
minute.
new to date.
Actually,
Nothing.
there's been a lot uncovered, and yeah, there are confirmed times where Erica Kirk has lied over and over again, and you said that, you conceded that. You're like, yeah, they're all fucking liars because every single one of them has been caught in lies. They lie when telling the truth would suit them better. What do you mean?
No, bro,
What do
I
you mean?
didn't.
You
I
can
said I
say
could
that they lie,
grant.
but there's no
I said I
evidence that
could
they
grant
lie.
the entirety of the position that all of them were liars, and it does nothing for you to tie them to the
But
murder.
it does, because
Nothing.
they're on a propaganda tour trying to hang a guy. They're trying to kill a guy, saying that Charlie Kirk was,
How
a
does that tie them
Judeo-Christian
to the
pro-Israel.
murder?
Anyway, if there is a video if there's something y'all want to watch, just type out the title in the chat. I'm not sure why the links are not coming through. I do have a link protection thing going on. So just type out the name of the channel and the title, and we'll go watch it if y'all want to.
Israel, fervent pro-Israel, Judeo-Christian guy.
Tie them to the murder, Stu.
Okay, so you're saying what? How does
Tie
that
them
tie?
to the murder.
They're not-
That's your claim. Your claim is that they're all
It's
part
Tyler
of it.
Robinson that's on trial for his life.
I get it, Stu, but what I'm asking you
Okay,
is why
and
do you
they're
guys
lying
always make
about-
the claims that these people
What do you
are
mean,
involved?
Candace? Okay, what do you mean the investigation has produced nothing? What about just the other day when she produced text messages from like a year and a half ago where Charlie
Which
Kirk was
said?
saying "fuck the Jews"?
Well, that's not
You
what
know,
he said.
where he was.
That's a lie.
He said,
You
"I'm
just
telling
made.
all these
You
Jews
literally
to go to
just
hell.
made that up. He said
I'm
that
telling all of these Jews to go
Yeah.
to hell."
No, he said I'm telling all of these Jews that are telling me who I can platform to go to hell, Stu. That's what it actually
So
said.
just so
And
you
you
know,
know
I'm
what's-
telling all these Jews
you know
to go
what's-
to hell. Do
yeah.
you think that that's
The
not
ones that
revealing
are- the
something?
ones-
Because you know
he
what
said-
I heard
hang
from
on,
Erica
hang on,
Kirk
Stu,
was
Stu,
every
you're
night.
lying.
It was
You're
every
lying,
Friday. It was
Stu.
throw it on
Stu,
the
you're
phone.
lying.
Daddy's home. Shabbat shalom.
You're lying. That's
They're
not what
trying
the
to
text
recreate
messages
who Charlie
said.
Kirk is when his own words
great.
completely annihilate their
Great.
propaganda.
How are they tied to the murder, Stu?
How is Tyler Robinson tied to the murder?
Because he has
the one
text
who's on
messages and his
trial for
rifle
his
on the
life.
scene, Stu.
He's the one on trial for
Was
his life.
Erica
The text
Kirk's
messages that
granddaddy's
I already
rifle
blew
found in
holes
the forest,
the
dude?
rifle that I already blew holes in, the DNA
didn't
that I
blow
already
any
blew
holes
holes
in it.
in.
You blew no
and,
holes in
and
nothing.
obviously wasn't enough because now
It
Turning
is.
Point people
Uh-huh.
are going
It
into a
wasn't- it
courtroom
was his
and they're coming
wife
out of
that
it and
painted
lying.
it.
Who do you think
His
believes
wife.
them?
Bro,
It must be
Rachel.
a terrible place to be
you
in.
can
let me
literally
just say
believe
this.
all of them
It
are
must be a
liars. It
terrible
doesn't
place
matter.
to be in. Can you imagine dealing with every single day? You are at the center of the most consequential political assassination of our lifetime. The entire world's eyes are on you. All you can do is lie. All you can do is lie.
Like you do about the microphone,
Everybody looks
Fortachuca,
at
all
you.
of that.
I'm not lying about any of that.
Great. Is it your position
I go
that
through
Andrew
it every
Colvett
single
is
night on my
100%
show.
tied to
I go
Fortachuca?
over data that Andrew Colvett won't refute any of the data. I
He
asked
did.
him.
He said he wasn't there.
No, he didn't. He
He
posted a
literally
20-year-old
said,
booking photo
I
of me.
wasn't. He said
Andrew.
these words. I
Andrew.
wasn't there. You're a liar.
He put a 20-year-old booking photo of me. That's what he
What?
did. And then he blocked me. I said,
After he
Andrew.
told you he
I
wasn't
said,
there.
Andrew, he did not tell anybody that he wasn't there.
Bro, I can pull up the tweet. He said, good luck
He
proving
never
that I was
said
never
that.
there. He said,
Okay.
good luck proving that, Stu. I was
okay,
never
well,
there.
I don't believe him.
Yeah, he's mentioned it multiple times on the stream that that Rachel painted that for him.
Well, that's
I
a
don't
different
believe
claim,
him.
Stu. Now you're
Okay.
just switching claims. You're like a
I
tube
don't
of toothpaste.
believe these people. They've been caught in lies
So he was at Fort
over
Tachuca?
and over and over
So
again.
he was at Fort Tachuca?
I go over this every night on my show.
Yeah, so was he?
I go over the banks of data that have Andrew Colvett's
That can't be
name being
replicated.
Google image searched from
Can't be
because they were
replicated.
deleted. They
No,
were deleted
no,
within 24
Google,
Nothing
those
sus
no,
about that.
they weren't deleted. They update. Those Google searches
were deleted.
update. They weren't
And you know
deleted.
how we
They
proved
update.
that? You know how
Yes,
we
you
proved that in
can.
real
Try.
time?
Try.
They were
You
deleted.
can.
Do you know how we proved
By
that?
the way-
no, proved is in past tense because it was already
Uh-huh.
proven that they did that. This happened
Uh-huh.
within 24 hours of that
Yeah,
being
like all
revealed
Google
on my
trends
show.
do.
It
They
was
all
completely
update.
deleted after they'd been replicated. They just updated
They
right
weren't
after that
replicated.
show, right? Within 24 hours.
Yeah, they
And
weren't
then when you go
replicated.
back in, so it said like Andrew Colvett Kairos, Johnny Moore Kairos.
Uh-huh.
Those were deleted. But when you went back in and you put
And Stu-
Kairos Andrew Colvett, guess
Yeah.
what popped up? It was there. They
Stu-
didn't delete that one.
Can you prove they came from Fort Tachuca, Stu?
They came from Sierra Vista, which is a
So
military
you
town, which
can't
is where
actually
Fort
prove they
Huachuca
came
is, which is
from
where
Fort-
85% of the people that
You
are
can't
there.
prove
It
that
is
they
the
came from
stand-
Fort Tachuca, can you, Stu?
Can you prove that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk?
I have evidence at least that I can point to.
I have
Yes, you
evidence
can't
that I
point to
discuss on my
anything.
show every single day.
What?
It's called an
What?
investigation, and that's
What
no different
evidence
than
do
what
you
the
have that
prosecution
Andrew
is
Colvette was at
doing.
Fort Tachuca?
What evidence is there that
How about this one? We watched it live, remember? Oh.
First of all,
It's
I think you
competitive
need,
GDP.
I think you need one of those special brownies you were talking about to bring you down from the Adderall high. Because you're just
Yay,
like,
drug insults.
it's like, whoa,
If you want to just go to like
relax.
weird
Did
drug
you have-
insults and
How
like
many Red Bulls did you have?
I don't
Just
know, Rachel. Can
chill.
you raise your eyebrows? Give it a try.
All right, we are
Ever tried it before?
we are going to. All right.
Yeah.
So this
your
is
Botox looks really good
these
on you,
are-
by the way.
What are we even
All right.
talking about?
all right.
Well, I
let's
know you have
do-
Botox, and it looks great, by the way. Go
let's-
off, Queen. I
all right,
love
let's
it.
do a reset. We
Yeah. He was wild.
Tyler Robinson
It was
shot
wild
Charlie
out there in the
Kirk?
street.
The
We
fact
go
that his
around and
rifle was
around.
on the
It's not
scene
my
and that there's
burden,
tons
and
of
that's what
DNA
you
evidence and a
always
text
do.
message confession.
This is what you always do, which is
Yes,
why
give
there's
you
no
evidence.
upside to whoever agreeing to debate you in the first place, but nobody else will. These cowards will not come out here and address any of these claims. They just block you.
You won't
post
address any
20-year-old
claims.
booking
But
photos and run.
GDP,
Bro, you
They
won't
provide
address
fake
any
alibis.
claims.
They lie about dating. They lie about drinking.
You lied about the
lie about
mic.
what
You
day
lied
of the
about
week
Fort
it is.
Tachuca.
yo, Matthew, I'm trying to join the Ozempic Olympics, bro. I'm trying to join the Ozempic Olympics. I could drop a, I could lose a. What's my kid weigh? Yeah, I could use it. I could lose I could drop an 11-year-old in pounds. You know what I'm saying?
You lied that Andrew Colvette
No,
was
I
Jewish.
didn't.
You lie
I'm
constantly.
discussing evidence. I'm discussing Department of Defense contracts. I'm just
Then answer the question.
I'm discussing munition plants that are blowing up 30 days
if
after
you're
he
not a
dies.
liar,
I'm
if
discussing
you're not a liar, then
the
answer the
contract
question.
going to
Was Erica
that
Kirk and
particular place. That
TPUSA
defense
and
contractor blew
yeah.
up.
Let's
Are
find
you
out if
going
you're
to
honest.
ignore all of these
Yeah,
things?
let's
You know, when
find
you
out.
plug all of
Let's
these
find-
things into
Stu,
any
let's
AI
find out if you're
calculator,
honest.
it will
Did
tell you
TPUSA
the
and
chances
Erica
of this all
Kirk and
being
Israel
coincidence are
conspire
impossible.
to
It's incalculable.
kill Charlie Kirk or not?
You're not gonna have me making a definitive.
I'm not
claim.
gonna
Here we are
ever.
at the end of this.
Yeah,
I knew
that's
it. I told
That's
everybody.
right.
Andrew Wilson is literally here to try to drag Baron Coleman and everybody else into defamation lawsuits on behalf of Erica Kirk. There's a team
What
of
are you
lawyers that
talking
sent
about?
you out to go do that. You were trolling.
Never
Baron Coleman.
happened. You just
You were
made it
trolling
all up.
Project Constitution.
Never
Quit.
made a
You
single
were coming
claim.
at me.
Bro,
Anybody
never
who had a
happened.
claim.
You're
Do you
lying.
want to debate? Do you want to debate? Do you want to debate? Yeah.
You're
tell
lying
me, how
again.
did Tyler Robinson kill Charlie Kirk? 'Cause he's
I
on
was
trial
trying
for
to
his
debate
life.
with these
You
people.
can't do that.
Let's conclude.
I was-
We're
I was
we hit
trying
we're
to
at time.
debate
If we have like a
people
concluding
starting
statement
with
from
Ian
Ed.
Carroll before I ever met a single human being at TPUSA, you liar. And on top of that, do you have
What?
any proof that I ever met with a single lawyer at TPUSA or that they paid me anything more than what they did for a debate course, like I've consistently said from day one? Any evidence, Stu, or did you lie about that too?
There's a whole lot of evidence of you switching your position on Erica Kirk and on Turning Point USA.
Haven't switched
You
my
hated
position on
Turning
shit.
Point. You hated
Haven't
Turning
switched
Point.
a single
you said that she
position.
was fucking retarded, and then you took money, and now you're out here shilling for them. So I mean,
Bro,
that just didn't happen all of a sudden. That
I
now
said
all of a sudden
all-
the evidence
bro,
is
do you know
overwhelming.
why
that
I
Tyler
said-
Robinson killed Charlie
Do you
Kirk.
know why I always say
That's
that
what
shit?
we came here to
Yeah,
debate, and you
And
haven't
I've been
made
trying
one
to debate
valid
it with
point
you.
at all. You've
You
given
have
me
no
head
evidence.
slop.
No
You have
evidence.
given me the Cash Patel narrative that Tyler Robinson, in the middle of the day, climbed the side of a building like Spider-Man.
Uh-huh.
And
You've
with
given
lazy
us
eye,
nothing.
used his grandfather stolen 30-06
You've
to
given
shoot
us
Charlie's
nothing,
Superman
Stu.
neck bones of steel.
You've given us
That's all
nothing.
you've given me. You've
Martin Luther
offered
King
no
had
evidence at all.
had an iron jaw. He had
Martin
an iron
Luther
jaw.
wasn't
His
sitting
jaw
next to
steel.
Charlie Kirk, and Tyler Robinson's not on trial for shooting Martin Luther.
Neither's Erica.
He's on trial for
Erica
shooting
Kirk-
Charlie Kirk, and
Erica
there's no
Kirk
evidence to
and Andrew
suggest that any
Colvette-
of that is true.
Erica
While
Kirk
Erica
and
Kirk is
Andrew
making the
Colvette
claim
are not on
definitively,
trial,
I
bro.
forgive him.
All right, let's wrap this
Now, are
up.
they on trial, Stu?
You
Let's
brought
wrap this up, guys.
Dude, it's rough listening to it. I ain't heard nothing they said.
Guys, if,
Are they on trial, Stu?
let's wrap this
Do you
up.
think any of them will debate? No. Instead, they just block you and post 20-year-old booking photos, and that's not how innocent people behave. I don't believe that.
Right. Okay. Let's
That's
conclude
how
this.
bad faith architects who won't
Let's
actually
conclude
stand by
this.
their positions behave. They won't answer questions like
That's
you,
exactly what they're
filibuster
doing.
like you, refuse to stand by a single position. That's Stu Peters.
I go over evidence every single night on my show, and I know that you
Right, but you refuse to
know
say
that.
it publicly for some reason
I
when I'm
say
here.
everything on the record every night. Came here to
Perfect.
debate you because
But
you
then
said
hit
you
under your
had
desk from
evidence
your
that nobody
positions
had
when
seen.
I was here.
All right. So
You have no evidence
All right.
to suggest that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk outside of the Fed slop narrative that nobody here believes.
great.
Bro,
So Stu
you have
Peters
no
is on.
evidence
Hold on.
for
Let's
any
wrap
of
this
your
up, guys.
claims,
Hold
and I
on.
gave
That's
you
it.
evidence.
That's it. That's it. We're at time. So we can go subscribe
Give
to
me evidence. Give
Andrew
me
Wilson
Fed
has a
slop.
show on YouTube. Stu Peters is on Rumble.
You gave me a conspiracy slop.
Okay. I think this was an interesting conversation. Thank you both for having this discussion that many are afraid to have. It was what it was. Maybe it could have been better, but I tried the best I could. So there you go. That was an interesting conversation. Thank you both for your time. I appreciate you. And I hope to have more discussions like this in the future.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right.
All right, enough of that. Anybody have anything they want to watch? This is an old modern day debate video.
The yes side, in particular, Andrew will get us rolling. Thanks for being with us. The floor is all yours, Andrew.
All right, man, be good.
Yeah, thanks a bunch for that. 1 second here. I'm on kind of a different setup. Thanks for having me on tonight, James. When I heard this premise, are men today really less masculine than who can't?
Get it together, Andrew.
As Andrew sorts out his tech, do want to say, folks, welcome to Modern Day Debate. If you have not been here before, want to let you know we're a neutral platform hosting debates on science, religion, and politics. We hope you feel welcome no matter what walk of life you are from. And I also want to take this opportunity to introduce Jess. So at the bottom right of your
Can't
screen,
watch this.
Jess is our guest mod, had reached out recently.
Yeah, I watched it. Where'd it go? Got it right here. I mean, I understand what it's saying, right? But just because you can go do it in your backyard doesn't mean that it's actual forensic ballistic testing, right? Because in order for you to do that, I mean, what's the chances of it happening, right? What's the chances of it happening? 1 in 1,000? At that one time, it's like the chances of you hitting the lottery once in a couple million, but that one time.
On Instagram, he took a 30-06, a pork guy today. Ran over this guy today. I don't know the guy. On Instagram, he took a 30-06, a pork neck, and he shows what the damage actually looks like. Okay, check it out.
So what we're going to do is we're going to simulate that with a pork neck. So we have pretty hefty pork neck here, and solid bone, a couple inches of meat. We're going to see if we can get a bullet to stop in it at 100, and this time I'm pushing out. I'm going to go to 175 meters, and we're going to see if we can hit this right square in the center and get a 150 grain bullet to stop. That's our close approximation to a deer neck. Well, up to Charlie's neck. So, and again, for size reference, let's see what we got.
Okay. What bullet did he use? Was it a saw point? Was it a FMJ? What kind of bullet? What did he use? I don't know. He didn't say. He said 150 grain. That is it the exact same bullet that Tyler shot? I don't know.
Wow. Looks a lot different, right?
For the next
And he really wrapped that thing, like packed it, like tighter than actual the neck structure. Ran over this guy today. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but What bullet are you using? 150 grain. All right. Are you using a full metal jacket? Are you using a hollow point? What are you using? Are you using a soft point like Tyler had? What are you using? Because if you're not using the same thing, then you can't say it's the same style. You can't say it's a simulation of what would happen if you don't use the same style bullet. So, I understand it. Kind of a moot point, because that one time it did happen. That 2 times that it has happened publicly with Charlie and Martin Luther King, it has happened. It is. So, both entered, no exit wound. So, can't say it can't happen. The ammo possibly could have been as old as the rifle. Nope, nobody really knows. I mean, well, they know because they have it or whatever. They have the other ammo, but you know, that's stuff that's going to come out in trial. Is anybody following the Nolan Wells issue, or is it just because I'm local to it? Is anyone else following that Nolan Wells stuff? This dude right here is a fucking weirdo, bro.
You asked Rachel about Hypatia. So being an educated philosophy person, could you name one work by Aristotle and one by Hegel?
Sure. I don't know what works by Hegel.
By the way, if I'd have known that's what she was saying, I would have answered. I couldn't understand her because she just talks like with a dry Adderall mouth, and I couldn't understand.
You're like slowing down with your age. It's a little hard to keep up.
No, I'm just like a normal person who's not on speed.
Aristotle would be the 5 dialogues.
That's Plato.
You.
That's all it is. That's all it is. It's because my opinion, it's all been blown out of proportion. I'm from the state, right? I'm from Mississippi. That shit ain't a problem here. You have the same problems in Mississippi when it comes to racism as you do in every other state. It's in every state. Little factions. It's not governments. It's not groups. It's small fractions of people that have the issues. And those people are the problem. Now, those guys grew up with Nolan. They went to school with Nolan. And everybody makes a big deal about him not having his phone. Why did he stay on the island? Why was he hanging out with them white boys? All of that garbage. Why was he? Why? No, it's just like the Charlie Kirk stuff. All conspiracies, no actual facts. The facts are, when they did the autopsy, he had zero defensive wounds. Zero. Not one. Not a single defensive wound. The blood alcohol test hasn't come back yet, but it's going to come back that he was highly inebriated. At 18, as an 18-year-old, stated that he was drinking. So, they made a big deal about the media and the community's making a big deal about, well, that can't be his real friends because his mom didn't even know who they are. Man, I grew up with people and we never went to their house. So here's the thing, right? Why would I go to your house when I have a pool, I have Xboxes, I have computers, I have go-karts, I have a boat? Why would we go to your house and just sit around and look at each other with 5 siblings that are under the age of 16 or 15 that are going to get on my nerves? Why would we go to your house when I can go to my buddy's house that is his only child that has all this cool shit that we can do? I mean, it's been proven. It's been proven now that they were not even there. It's been proven that they left him on the island. He left the island at 4. They left the island at 4:31. They have GPS data on their boat from where they left, where they went to the boat ramp, where they parked the boat, then when they went and picked the boat up later. They have GPS data on all that. They have the phone call where they called for a tow because their boat was sinking. They have all of that data. Every bit of it's there. There's eyewitnesses saying, yes, Nolan Wells was on the island at 6:30 that evening, long after those boys are gone. So, I mean, we can watch some of the stuff because some of the stuff that they're talking about, man, it's just crazy. They're out of their minds with the stuff. And I don't know if you believe Officer Tatum, but he did interviews with two of the boys. He did interviews with them, and there's nothing that they said that can make me doubt their story. Nothing at all, because they have the same. Because I can go talk to my 16-year-old in there right now. His parents, he's got 5 best friends, and I have never met them. He's been friends with them for 4 years, going through high school, or through middle school into high school. I've never met them. They don't know me. Well, they do now from being in the stream the other night, but that's a different story. I've never walked. They've never came into my house. They've never hung out. They don't know. I don't know them like that. But I can't say that it's not my son's best friends because they clearly are, since they talk every single day. Huh? Yeah, I mean, well, like 5 or 6 of them. Yeah, I mean, the wife calls them the core 4. How would something point away from something? Okay, Go season. I don't know what that means. How would something point away from something? What does that mean? Explain that to me. Put it into dummy terms, because I don't understand that. Hey, Jacob, no problem, buddy. You'll be good, man. Yeah, because I do, at least the bottom pillow, or that pillow, because I do not want that pillow. The pillow's been hurting my head. I appreciate it. I don't know if you've subscribed yet or not, Jacob, but go ahead and subscribe if you haven't. Yeah, okay. The evidence is pointing away from the conspiracy, 100%. I don't know what you mean. Your first statement at the beginning, you said that the evidence points away from the conspiracy. Yeah, because the conspiracies are so bad and they're so racially charged that it doesn't even make sense. Because the evidence of the kids those 18, 19-year-old boys, there's evidence, proven evidence, that they were on a boat and gone prior to Nolan ever coming up missing. There's evidence of that. There's GPS tracking on their phones that the police have. There's GPS tracking on the boat that the police have and the FBI have. There's evidence that they were at another person's house that evening. That's all evidence pointing away from that conspiracy that those boys unalived Nolan. Talking about the debate. This debate? Oh, are you talking about the Charlie Kirk thing? You're talking about Charlie Kirk, right? Okay. So we're talking about Andrew Wilson. Yeah. Talking about Andrew Wilson and Charlie Kirk. Okay. So the Charlie Kirk stuff, right? There's evidence leading away from those conspiracies. I don't know. The fact that Tyler Robinson confessed, that's a pretty big thing that leads away from Israel and Europe. I mean, in not Europe, but how can evidence point away from the conspiracy? Because all right, let's use the conspiracy. One of the conspiracies, his microphone exploded. Okay? His microphone exploded and it killed him. Boom. Exploded, right? Kind of, the evidence kind of points away from that whenever you go, man, there was a rifle over there that had recently been fired. There's expended shells on the roof overlooking where he was sitting. Kind of blows that conspiracy out of the water. And the fact that his microphone was still intact. Because it didn't hit the microphone. It hit him it didn't hit the microphone. Just like the Carmelo case, it's not acceptable for another verdict, but racist and victim no matter what. Man, y'all gonna have to be concise with these questions, because that was a statement and I don't think it even made any sense. No, that would mean that it's pointing away from the conspiracy, because here's conspiracy, it's going the other way because it's not even in the same ballpark. That would mean it point away from everything in the world but the facts, though. What facts? The facts that we have clear evidence of Tyler Robinson on campus. Candace Owens said he was never on campus. He clearly was. We have videos of his car. We have his tag number. We have him standing there with a baseball cap and glasses. Look, you see me? And you say, well, you can't identify him because you can't identify him because the image wasn't clear. Okay, well. I guess I'm no longer here. You will never know who I am now. I'm incognito mode. So that's just a stupid point, right? So Candace says he was never on campus. He was on campus. What's up, Edwin? How you doing, buddy? He was never on campus. Clearly was. He didn't own a rifle. He didn't have access to a rifle. Candace said he didn't have access to a rifle. He did. Candace says that after that narrative blew up, she goes, well, it must be Israel. The evil Israel. They're evil Jews over there. That must be them. It must be. It must be them. It must be them, because Charlie Kirk was going away from Israel. Not what he said. Not what he said. He said specifically about Netanyahu, not Israel. Okay. And then it must be them. Well, that fell apart pretty quickly. So it must be, the next one was, well, if it wasn't them, then it has to be Egypt, because Egypt also had a plane come over at the same time in that region. But when you look at the flight logs, man, Egypt Airlines, that airline goes through that area 20, 30 times a day. But hey, we're just going to leave that out because it doesn't fit my narrative. And then you go, oh man, it must be Erica. Erica did it. Erica wanted to get rid of Charlie. Okay, so Erica wants to get rid of Charlie. Let's go over that one. Erica wants to get rid of Charlie and take over the nonprofit that he wasn't making any money at. Excuse me? Excuse me? Erica Jay versus Jake. Wait. Is that the Christianity versus Islam? But so it takes away, so it must be Erica because just a second. It must be Erica so that she could take over TPUSA, which is a nonprofit, and make $200,000 a year as the CEO versus millions a year as with all the sponsors and stuff that Charlie was doing. That doesn't make any sense either. Doesn't make any sense. So which debate are you talking about? And the new one from DebateCon. So I haven't shown that one on stream, but I'm probably gonna end up privating this VOD too. So I mean, I can. So which one is it? I don't know Jake versus Jay. I know Jake versus Naheem and Britannicella. I don't know who that is. Yeah, it's just all hate, no matter what, right? Now the conspiracy is I have two of them here. So Christianity versus Islam versus Christianity.
Check out their app today.
I'm sure many of you can.
We're going to jump right.
The founder and the roar.app.
I appreciate you, brother. Indeed, we.
But I'm gonna finish what I'm saying. All right. Anyway, the evidence against Tyler is substantial, right? Tyler was spotted on campus. He had access to the weapon. He had access to. He went and talked to Turning Point USA prior to. He did everything when he left in shorts. He came back with pants on. He did everything he did to incriminate himself. If he's not the person that did it, he definitely tried his hardest to get incriminated for it. Just saying. So is this the one, King?
We will with Jay. Your opening timer or opening statement timer is set. I'll start it on your first word.
I noticed my friend here came in his pajamas, but so did I. I'm just kidding, Jake. Jake gave me his book. I looked through it. I'm already Muslim, so debate's over. I give up. He convinced me, dude. All right, what's up, Texas? It is Sunday, 2005. We're going to be live in the next 4 hours. That's Alex Jones. All right, Deuteronomy 21. We're going to go back to an area that you probably wouldn't expect, because usually we think of civilization as this political philosophy, this idea, that, whatever. No, actually, Western civilization, our civilization, including the civilization that I'm going to harken back to, which is the model Christian civilization, in my view, Byzantium, the continuation of the Roman Empire. We're going to look at that, see how it was successful, and what ways the Christian imperium lasted as the longest Christian civilization and the most successful civilization in world history. If we go back to Deuteronomy and the Mosaic Law, we have laws of warfare. This is the first time, as far as we know, in ancient Near Eastern civilization that laws were introduced that protected captives amongst the slave class, or captives amongst war. These laws gave a new level of protection that underclass, or that women, or that others did not have prior to that. Prior to that, the typical attitude was that these were in a state of slavery. And so now we have a new introduction that the husband of these, in this situation, if he would like to marry, he must marry and give legal status to captives of warfare. The passage that is used here to protect these girls is the Hebrew word that signifies them as Isha, or young, that is, young girl. So here we have, for the first time, the protection of the youth in the ancient world through Mosaic law, Deuteronomy 21. This passage, and no other passage, this passage does not allow for rape. In fact, it forbids rape, and all other passages that discuss the possibility of rape are also explicit in condemnation in the Torah and in the Old Testament. In Numbers 31, which is a passage often cited by Muslims and others who critique this, there's nothing said about sexuality in this passage. In fact, the context is Numbers 25, that a Moabite or a Midianite person was to be not allowed in because of the previous warfare that the Israelites had engaged against them for enticing them to worship Baal and to commit orgies. But since these were not that generation, this next generation was to be protected, and you spared the virgins. They could then become members of the covenant community. You raised them, and then at a certain age, you could marry them. This did not allow for rape. In fact, rape is forbidden. Deuteronomy 21, 10-14. You are not allowed to defile the girls. And then later on, they are women in the Numbers and Deuteronomy passage. So in other words, it goes from young girls to, as they become older, they become members of the covenant community. They have certain legality and protection. Now, that is totally contrary to the typical attitude that we have amongst Muslim critics of the Old Testament, particularly the passages in Numbers and Deuteronomy that are often cited. They're actually the opposite. They're the beginning of the protection of all classes of society.
Sitting around watching these debates.
As we get into modern civilization, we look back to our precedents, our heritage. That is Roman law, that is common law, that is biblical law, that is canon law. All of these legal traditions have an important, crucial history when it comes to forming the society in the order that we have. Certainly, I do not agree with every aspect of postmodern or even post-Enlightenment society. The Enlightenment certainly had some good critiques of its previous papal civilization. But prior to that, there is the unknown imperium, again, of Byzantium. When the Christian church was founded, the Christian church was a tiny group that believed that it was the fulfillment of everything that Old Testament religion was pointing to. The Old Testament bequeathed to it not just the general law of the Ten Commandments, but many other principles, including the notion of not just civil law that's based around the deity, but also canonical law or church law. Church law, for example, in the West began to give the accused rights. We might hear or think about the Inquisition. And although I don't agree with everything to do with the Roman Catholic Church, there's sometimes a bad attitude is given towards the Inquisition because we think of only the bad things. But actually, one of the things that the Inquisition introduced based on biblical principles was the idea of the rights of the accused, was the idea of defense of the accused. So a lot of the great heritage that we have in Western tradition does come from, again, not just Christian civilization, not just biblical texts, but also many examples of the appropriation and application of those principles. It's a better position. We're intended to speak sexual.
I accept his standard completely. So hold his exhibit because the Rome here's accident, traffic deaths and battered families. 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tonight, the answer is Islam.
What about
Thank
the
you very
rebuttals?
much.
Have you already seen that?
Thank you very much for that opening.
We have like a little rebuttal, because if we immediately go into the 60 minutes, we won't be able. There's a lot that came up, so could we have like a 5-minute back and forth, and then you do the open?
Have you? Okay, I didn't see all of the back and forth. I've already seen the open. I didn't see all the back and forth.
Or no?
I have to
Reading is
defer
a-
to Jake
is-
just because you guys
yeah,
already agreed on
skill,
the
and I don't
format.
have
So
it, bud.
Jake, whether you want to grant that or a hybrid of something like that, or
How about 5 minutes?
Yeah.
rebuttal?
Yeah.
Time?
5 and 5.
deal.
And
All
then
right.
and then open. Is that cool? Appreciate
You
it.
got it. I've got the timer set for you for that 5-minute rebuttal. Jay, the floor is all yours.
Okay. Specific question instead of asking you tons of questions. Do you want me to skip to the back and forth only, or leave it on the rebuttal? Answer that question, and then we'll move along.
Yeah, only because a lot of things were brought up, which is fine. I know in an opening statement, a lot's going to be brought up, and so of course he can respond to. I want to note that. So first of all, yeah, I've said democracies are fake and gay many times over. So, I mean, a lot of repeating all the stuff that I said, and I think everybody here would agree democracy is fake and gay. So now we have a constitutional republic, and it is possible for a constitutional republic to be Christian or to be Christianized. I don't deny that. It's just that that doesn't exist in the history of the church. The normative principle of the history of the church is, in the Orthodox Church, for example, a coronation service where you have a king coronated by the church, and so the authority for the temporal realm comes from the spiritual. The church is not apolitical, it's separate. There's a division of spheres. And this is unfortunately one of the mistakes of the Enlightenment and the Protestant Reformation, but not even the first generation of the Protestant Reformers. They were, in fact, many of them monarchists. In fact, Luther said it. Nothing to do with which system actually ripped Torah.
Growth. Most of what he had to say, not that depletion society is. Let me just see a couple more points here.
Dialogue, gentlemen. We will let this be as organic as you'd like it to be. If it gets crazy, I'll jump in. The floor is all yours.
Yeah, I have a question, if you don't mind, Jay.
Sure.
So, yeah, maybe you can help me out with this. I think you agree with me that Western, the sort of secular liberalism that we experience in the West, in the U.S., and most European countries, is an event, and the Protestants in the audience might not like this, but is an eventual outgrowth of Protestantism. Now, I'm making it one step back further, that I think that it's because
Now, one step
Christianity
back.
didn't have clear dictates on the doctrine of, how the church should relate to the state. Now, obviously, you don't agree with that. So how do you explain how this came to be out of Protestantism?
One thing I would say is the concerns of the first, second, third century church was not mainly politics, but it doesn't follow from a focus that's different, that therefore there is no doctrine of the state, there is no idea of a basileus or a theocracy. I would actually argue for theocracy. So you have, for example, setting aside principles in Mosaic law, you have, for example, many Old Testament prophecies in Daniel 2, from our perspective, that the kingdom under which the empire or the Messiah would be born would eventually permeate and become the kingdom of the Messiah. For us, that's a prophecy of Christ's birth under the Roman Empire and the Christianization over time of the Roman Empire. So there's also, in many passages of Isaiah, we believe prophecies about the Christian kings that would come to be in the future. So these are principles that are there that you can even see the earliest church fathers citing these messianic prophecies as giving the idea, at least, that, yeah, there's going to be the notion of Christian states in the future. But it was not their primary concern in the first, second, third century when they're in the catacombs, for example, to figure out the mechanics of the relationship of state and church. So it's only natural that when the imperium does become Christianized, that's when we would start to see from the Edict of Toleration with Constantine, and then Theodosius is really the first emperor to put some Christian laws into practice, and then St. Justinian with his code being explicitly Christian. So the fact that it sort of evolves, it doesn't follow from that the application evolves, that the principles were not in the New Testament or that they evolved, because I could give you tons of examples of legal principles of continuity from Old to New Testament, which are in the New Testament and in the Church Fathers, that are principles applied. Again, the death penalty is one classic example. It's assumed that the early church tended to not affirm the death penalty. There are a couple church fathers that do not, but actually the majority, if you look at the essay that I wrote on this at my website, I cite examples from Clement to Athanasius to Ambrose, all affirming the death penalty. It's just one example.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that. My question is not more so about what happened in the early period, but from what you're saying is that wasn't their focus in the first 3 centuries. I understand that. Then you have, as you said, and we both agree with this historical narrative, Justinian becomes explicitly Christian and then kind of develops further. But I guess my question is, from that point, from Justinian going forward to wherever you demarcate where, I don't know, either Byzantium fell or maybe even after that, because there's really no true Christian monarchies today. I mean, unless you can tell me one. From that period, what changed? Why did it change from the church having this vision, which you deemed to be correct, to all of a sudden, you know, having what we experience today in the West? I mean, because it's not governed by Christian law.
So basically, even the Roman Catholic West, after the schism, for many centuries, still maintained this same principle of the need for a Christian state, for Christian laws. So even within the schism of East and West, there's literally no difference between these two groups on this principle. Now, how that's applied, yeah, of course, the Roman Catholic West has a tendency to put the papacy in a greater geopolitical position that we would disagree with. I noticed that one of your arguments, for example, was hinging on the idea that the church is apolitical. No. What those canons mean is that members of the clergy are not supposed to be in the state.
Right.
So that's our perspective on that. But to say explicitly where it began to devolve, I would say, is you have a series of events that occur in the West, particularly Protestant Reformation, Scientific Enlightenment, Enlightenment itself, Scientific Revolution, Enlightenment. So all these 3 events, I think, are a cascading series of revolutions that really don't have much to do with Christianity. I think I would criticize Protestants in that they might have helped that revolutionary fervor. I don't think they necessarily meant to do that, but I would say that I know that I think Jake's tactic is to set the Protestants and the Catholics and the Orthodox against each other. That's a classic Jake tactic, which I don't blame you for doing it, because I did the same thing, right? So I was like, the Naim guy is like a Quran only, and they don't like each other. So I don't blame Jake for doing it. It's what you do in debates. But again, I think that the Protestant Reformation has a revolutionary ethos to it that it even didn't intend, because of the fact that the earliest reformers were still monarchists. The English Reformation, even with Henry VIII as the so-called head of the church, I mean, it still was a monarchical structure of the state. Even the Vatican upheld this principle of the Christian state until the time of Vatican II. So, I'm not trying to take up the time, but the simple answer is there's a series of revolutions, and those revolutions affect the Islamic world just as much as the West. So, perhaps you could argue that Islam more explicitly maintained the belief that it should be that God's laws should apply to the state. I would agree with you, but I would not say that that's the consistent traditional Christian position. It happens to be the Protestant tendency, even though the first generation Protestants didn't really believe that.
Right. I'm not trying to do that in a bad way. I genuinely believe that narrative. I believe the narrative that this was an outgrowth of Protestantism. I mean, I think when you have sola scriptura, which is essentially a denial of the church's authority to preach and teach what is the correct understanding of Scripture, and then you make yourself that authority, this sort of individualism, not rightly, but naturally leads to, I'm not saying there are obviously links in the chain along the way, but I'm saying that I think this Protestant doctrine of sola scriptura, and in its crudest form, just me and my Bible in my closet, eventually leads to, well, not only do you not want Rome to tell you what is the understanding of Scripture, you don't want any legislative authority over you to be governing by laws that they see as Christian when you don't agree with that. And so I think it is an eventual natural outgrowth of Protestantism and the doctrine of sola scriptura, which leads to this kind of fundamental societal individualism that we experience in the West. I don't think anybody should deny that, especially if you're not Protestant. So I'm not using that as a gotcha. I genuinely believe that that was the trajectory. However, I want to give the Protestants a little bit more credit in saying that, well, I don't think that this happened out of nowhere. Where did they get this idea or belief from that the church should not really be involved in the state? I mean, it seems to me, and what you said, I do kind of appreciate that from the Islamic perspective, I think the reason why this happened is because Islam, whether you agree with the laws or not, that's not really the discussion right now, is that it is very clearly political. There is no separation between church and state or church and mosque. It's very, very explicit and clear, and I think that lack of clarity that exists or doesn't exist in Christianity is the reason why you eventually had the Protestant Reformation and then what I think this sort of secular liberalism, which eventually is an outgrowth of Protestantism, is because the church and the Bible were not as clear on its doctrine of church and state. That's what I'm arguing.
If they were not that clear, you would not have the level of unanimity from the 4th century until even literally up until 1800s when the revolutions took over Europe. I mean, you have over 1,000 years of really no dissension amongst significant groups, East and West, in this principle of symphonia. In fact, Holy Roman Empire amongst the Catholics had the exact same symbol of the double-headed eagle that the Eastern Byzantine Empire has of the double-headed eagle. And for those that don't know, the meaning of that is you have one body of the people and two heads. The two heads just simply symbolize two different aspects of human society, the spiritual and the temporal. They work in harmony because it's the same body, but they have two different spheres or roles. This actually comes out of the Old Testament. If you look at the Old Testament, there's a clear delineated spheres of authority to where, for example, you can't, Saul in one case is castigated because Saul tries to do priestly functions. And within the Mosaic Law, they had this clear delineation that there's a difference between the laws of kings. Again, Moses had a little book about laws of kings from the Torah, and then principles that govern the Levitical priesthood. That principle was then adopted. I'm not saying the Levitical laws themselves, but the principle was adopted when society became Christianized. There were some groups in the 1st and 2nd century who were not the most educated Christians who thought that it was the end of the world. Jesus was going to immediately come back. And so they didn't think under this time of persecution that they would be put in a situation where they would apply biblical principles and then later canonical canon law principles, church law principles to society. Once the Imperium became Christianized, it's only natural that they would apply those. But here's the thing, the New Testament is not unclear about that. And if you've got over 1,000 years of unanimity between East and West, even if they disagree theologically, they still agree on this principle all the way up until perhaps the 1800s is really when this begins to be questioned. So where's that lack of clarity for those for that millennium plus?
Okay, so what I see is that in the early period, as you said, there wasn't consensus on the correct view of the church and state. And then in the latter portion, we also have this confusion. But then we have a middle period, which I agree, in the Roman West and in the East, you do have an agreed upon standard in which Christians seem to be agreeing that no, there is this symphonia and there is this involvement in the state from the church. I agree with that. But what I'm saying is, in Islam,
this is a very, very calm debate. They're very chill. They're not. Nobody's getting angry. Nobody's talking over each other. They're just very chill. I wonder if it's like this the whole way.
You don't have that. You can disagree with the laws. You can disagree with whatever else, the application of it. But we see very early on that Islam is political. There were many disputes and debates, even theologically, in early Islam. But this wasn't really one of them. There was debate over who should be the political leader, sure. But there wasn't debate over there being political leaders and them fundamentally instituting Islamic law. You see that all the way up to the current day. Now, of course, as you rightly said, that this sort of secular liberalism has also hit Muslim lands, and sure, there are problems there, but I don't think it is nearly as bad as it is in the West. And I think it's because Muslims have a much more foundational understanding of the relationship between Islamic law and society, where that's really, to be honest, I think it's lacking in, if you're correct about the correct view of how Christianity sees church and state, then you should be doing a lot more lectures on this, because it seems that most Americans and most supposed Christians in the West don't view it this way. They don't view it this way really at all. And that's why you have people like Michael Jones, or I know, and you've not criticized him, but Trent Horn, and even Catholics, where the Catholics previously, or the Roman West, would have agreed with the East and kind of your view of government and structure. Where today you don't really see that. There aren't too many Catholics who believe that, other than maybe some trad cats. Not too many Protestants who believe that, and then it's just a small amount of diorites, to be honest with you.
Is Trent still here, by the way? Did Trent leave? Oh, I was going to say a cuss word to make him leave.
Trent Horn was here before? Yeah. Because I saw a guy that was wearing a Trent Horn badge, but it didn't look like Trent Horn. It was weird.
That was his imposter body double. So he didn't want to get assassinated, so he has a hired body double in case, like, if he's around me. So no, I'm joking. Well, so you said, Joel, one thing I want to highlight that's not the main point, but you said there wasn't a consensus, but who do you mean in the first 3 centuries when the church is being persecuted? Why would there be a consensus when you admitted that the correct position could still be there in a period when it's debated? I mean, Islam is full of non-consensus and debates. So yeah. Who are you talking about when there's not a consensus? Do you just mean the first 3 centuries?
Yeah, I'm just talking about the early period. And I agree that just because there wasn't a consensus doesn't mean that your representation or your position is incorrect. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it appears that it's not as clear in early Christianity as it is in Islam. As you said, there were theological debates for example, is the Quran created or not? I'm not trying to waste time, but there wasn't a debate, and there were debates about who should be the ruler politically in Islam, and that's why we have a division between Sunni and Shia. But there was no debate about whether or not Islam should be political in that way. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay, but I mean, in the case of Nicaea, for example, if there's debate and Nicaea settles a dispute and the canons note that you can be a Christian and a soldier, then how is that a problem for my position because something's debated for a period? I just don't understand how this...
The argument that I'm making, and it doesn't follow necessarily, I'm not arguing that, but I think it counts as evidence against the position, is that it seems that because there is this, and not a small difference, I would say a wide difference for several hundred years, and then you also have that taking place again today where your position, I mean, I'll ask you this, do you think that your position is a minority view held amongst Christians today?
Well, if you use the term Christian broadly.
In a broad way, yeah, I'm saying including people who call themselves Orthodox, Catholic, and Protestant. Yes. I know you would agree, you would probably say some of these guys are phonies, I understand. But I'm saying in people who identify as Christian today, wouldn't you agree that your position is a minority and most people don't believe in that who call themselves Christian?
Yes, but in terms of the prompt of the debate, in terms of how this would prove which is better for society, it only really betters society if the Islamic position actually has the good for society. And if it's correct that the church's focus is not primarily political, it just simply doesn't follow from that it has nothing to say about the political. So if the argument is that the Bible gives rise to the revolutions of Protestantism or something like that, I just simply think that's a correlation without causation in the sense that, so because the Bible existed and Jake's understanding that the Bible's New Testament is more Protestant in its view of church and state, I think you have to demonstrate that first. I don't think you could demonstrate that. And the fact that in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd century, some people disputed that, it simply just doesn't follow that there is no Christian doctrine of the state. So it's not that strong of an argument. If the same flaws apply to, and by the way, so the fact that Islam does believe, quote, in a theocracy, has that actually successfully always been applied throughout the centuries of Islamic history? Just think about terms like the way that the legal rulings in fiqh and whatnot in your system are applied. I mean, it's not always consistently applied, is it?
No.
Okay, so the idea
you
that
still
the consistent application somehow necessarily proves or shows that your position is better, I just simply think doesn't follow.
The original question I asked, and that's what I'm inviting you to do, and maybe I'm just missing it. So I have my own thesis about why this happened. I explained it, and you're saying, well, it's a correlation, but not necessarily causation. I understand that. So that's why I'm inviting you to explain, and maybe I'm missing it, what was the clear causation of, forget about the first 300 years. I understand what you're saying there.
Okay.
But what was exactly the clear causation from where the Roman West, the Catholics, and the East, even after they separated, had this agreement, and now it's like, and I'm not saying this to be funny, I'm just saying in reality, now it's just Jay Dyer and his crew and some Orthodox who believe this, and pretty much everybody else has gone by the wayside. It seems like a really sharp decline that happened very quickly. Now, I gave my reasoning or historical kind of argument of why I think this happened. Now, you don't believe it's the Bible's fault. You don't believe it's the New Testament fault. So that's why I'm kind of inviting you to explain the causation.
So if we set aside that early issue, then I would say if you look at the 11th century, there's a huge revolution that even Roman Catholic scholars would admit. You have people like Congar and Dvornik, the famous Uniate scholar. They admit that there's a revolution in ecclesiology in the West. It's known as the Gregorian Reforms. And what's unique about this is that the papacy began to take on a new geopolitical role. I think that we can try to be charitable and fair as fair as we can to the Roman Catholics of that period. I'm not blaming every Roman Catholic of that time period. I think that the schism began in 1054 and then sort of flourished it grew apart over time. But it's unanimously nowadays admitted, even amongst Catholic scholars, that this period is a revolution in ecclesiology. Now, that might sound abstract and not like a huge deal, but the reason that matters is that prior to that, canon law in the East and the West forbade the church from being the state. So we're not saying that the church has no thing to say to the state or that the church doesn't work in Symphonia. Again, that was the norm even prior to the 11th century. But when you have the papacy saying, I am now a geopolitical power, I am now going to take the sword, the papacy begins to have standing armies. They begin to have warrior monks, monastic orders that have the sword. Again, in the Byzantine model, the sword isn't bad. It's exercised, as Romans 13 says, the imperium has the diakonos. That's the same word as deacon in Romans 13. So Paul is calling the emperor a deacon. That means he has a quasi-religious role. So even in the New Testament, the idea of Romans 13 is not a radical separation of church and state. That's a Roger Williams Baptist idea, very, very late. So 11th century is a key move to where the papacy takes on geopolitical world power. That begins a process, in my view, that culminates in a Reformation rejection of some of those papal excesses. And most of the reformers, as we all know, Protestantism is protesting the papal Roman Catholic system. So Not everything in the papal Roman Catholic system is wrong, but what they are protesting is, in some cases, the overstepping, particularly in the political realm. If you look at Western European history, the German princes, other princes, they did not like the papacy stepping into the temporal sphere. They resented that. So the Reformation was partly a rejection of that. So if you want the long sort of causal chain, which I do think is there, you could say, yeah, there's a long series of revolutions that begins with Gregorian reforms in the 11th century. And by the way, many of those popes in the 11th century, I want to say the majority of them actually for 70 years, were actually appointed by German kings. So it's nepotism. That set the stage for down the road what would become the Reformation. So yeah, I do think you could trace it this way, and then past that, if you want to get up into like the Bolsheviks and all that, I mean, that's all Western banking money that was funding all of that. So that's the long of it, but none of that has anything to do with whether the position was actually in the New Testament.
Okay. You mentioned about warrior monks and stuff like that. I know, obviously, it did exist. But what do you make of my citation of Basil's canon that specifically mentions that even if the war is quote-unquote justified, that people who come back from that are not actually to partake in communion for 3 years? So you have a case in which it's supposedly legitimate, and yet in St. Basil's canon, it explicitly says that they're not clean in the sense that they can't take communion.
Yeah, so again, just like with King...
That was part of, sorry to cut you, but that was part of canon, that was instituted as canon law.
Right, so the way canon law functions in Orthodox Church, you can look at the canons of Trullo. One of the very last canon of Trullo in the Orthodox Church says that the application of these principles is up to the prerogatives of the bishop. So for us, the local bishop is the applier of that. That doesn't mean that it's do whatever you want, but that he does have the final say-so, because for us, there's not really a higher authority than that. So for us, that type of application would be applied, first of all, on a case-by-case basis. So it is possible that a person doesn't have to be under the canonical penalty of 3 years. But the principle is there because, as we said, even King David in the Old Testament was a righteous warrior whom God taught how to fight. Because he had shed so much blood, there were certain things that were not appropriate for him. So it's a canonical penalty that has nothing to do with saying you're not saved. It's just saying out of reverence for the sacrament, we're going to impose a time where you do penance, because most of the time, even if you're just in the war, in the battle, you've still probably sinned in some way in our perspective. So it's simply a sort of a penance that's restorative. It has nothing to do with saying like you're excommunicated from the church. It's not like that at all.
Yeah, I'm not saying that, but okay, I guess you kind of answered at the end that you would agree. I mean, I don't have this position, but for you and the way you see this canon law, which comes from Basil, is that inevitably in war, there's going to be sins committed, even if it's supposed to be a just war, and therefore, because of that, I mean, do you still see that as justified today? Is that something that you would agree should be reinstated if there was such a monarchy, that would be something to reinstate?
And again, these penalties are not applied by the monarch. These are penalties applied by the church. So the church applies the canons at the local setting. So all the monarch's job is to do is to enforce what the New Testament, not just in Romans 13, but for example, Paul says to Timothy that the state has the job, the duty to punish evildoers, and then he lists a series of offenses that are particularly egregious, such as murder, etc. So the state's role is not to enforce church code. Even the Roman Catholic West had a distinction between the penalties that the church would give. And so, for example, even when there were heretic laws in the medieval West, the Inquisition would hand those people over to the state. They typically, except for the Spanish Inquisition, which was under Isabella, it was separate from the Papal Inquisition. You hand it over to the state. So in the same case with St. Justinian, like the church might make a ruling. For example, Basil has a canon about abortion. The church doesn't say, like, you're sentenced to death. It's handed over to the state, and then the king makes that decision. And we simply see that as modeled with Solomon. When Solomon has the two hoes and he, does that wise thing where he tests the hose and then he says, okay, now we know who the real mom is, right? So he's applying the principle of the law to the 304s and the thoughts. T-H-O-T, that's an Old Testament thought. Anyway, that's a thought exercise right there.
Yeah.
I'll be here all week.
Yeah. So let me get, because you didn't respond to this, but I mentioned a lot, so it's fine. I mentioned Luke chapter 12 in the scenario where a man brings an issue of inheritance, and Jesus answers, "Man, who made me a judge or an arbiter over you?" Why, if Jesus is supposed to be the head of the church, right? And you see that, or as you're claiming, the church is not supposed to be completely apolitical. Why would Jesus respond in this way?
Great question, in fact, and a lot of Protestants would bring up that same passage. So for us, first of all, in Jesus' first coming, in his, quote, humiliation, we see the ministry that he's doing as specifically fulfilling the role of the humble servant. But even in the Old Testament, that would not be something that you would only take that kind of a ruling to the state. So in his first coming, he is specifically not in any role of state. In the exaltation and ascension, we think that when he ascended, he then became King of Kings. Thus, monarchy continues on, even via the book of Revelation, calling him King of Kings. So all earthly kings are underneath the supreme king. So it wouldn't be sensible, and it's the same with the woman in adultery. We believe Jesus is the one that gave those Old Testament laws. I know you know that we believe that, but I'm saying that for the audience, right? So it's not a different God of the Old Testament or something like that. So Jesus is the one that laid down those penalties, and certainly as the supreme judge, he has the authority to abrogate or to relax a penalty. But there's several cases in the New Testament where people come to Jesus with legal matters or personal vengeance matters, and he simply says, that's not what my mission is at this point. But that does not mean, and let's take one example. In Matthew 5, when he talks about, don't, if somebody slaps you, give him the other cheek, right? And this is oftentimes cited as, we're supposed to be pacifists. We don't read the Bible in isolation from the rest of the passages, right? This is talking about personal vengeance. It has nothing to do with saying that you can't have righteous judgment in a law court, because there's many places where the New Testament gives principles for judges and for rulers. The book of Proverbs, which is always used by the early church, it was, according to St. Athanasius, the catechism for converts, including the Deuterocanon. It's full of principles of justice in weights and balances. That's money. Principles of kings and judges, that they shouldn't take bribes. Those are all statements to rulers in the political realm, in the polis. It's just simply not what Jesus' focus was in his 3 years of ministry, which was about accomplishing what the Father had set him out to do.
Okay, so it seems like, to kind of summarize, you're saying that was not Jesus's initial earthly ministry.
Correct.
Was not to be, a political figure or to be instituting, these specific laws in that way. Okay, so maybe that's where you're trying to say that Protestantism, or the eventual outgrowth of complete separation between church and state, is due to a misunderstanding of applying Jesus's initial earthly ministry and his initial campaign and what he was supposed to be doing to later after the ascension and going forward. Is that correct?
Yeah, so like in the Old Testament, you have many places, again, like where there's prophecies that the kings of the nations and the Gentiles would convert. You have, Psalm 45, which is about, in our view, Jesus and Mary, but we also think it's about kings and magistrates converting. So there's laws for magistrates, and even those penal sanctions at times you can see throughout Byzantine code. Like, I'm not saying that they're being Judaizers and like copy pasting, but they're using the principles of the Old Testament penal sanctions and the Mosaic law, and even applying those in a social setting. So it's only natural that when Christian societies become predominantly Christian, that they would function that way. And I just don't see why none of that demonstrates that it's unclear in the New Testament.
Okay. Is there any Christian monarchy today or theocracy?
I don't, not that I'm aware of, other than nominally.
Okay. And
I mean, there are monarchs, but they're nominally.
okay. Now, when I quoted you from a video where you discussed this topic in detail as attempting to reinstitute it, and you kind of mentioned it in your opening statement, I don't mean making society exactly what the Byzantine Empire was like. I'm not saying that, but how do you envision anything coming remotely close to that given the situation that we're in? And I think it is related to the question of the debate because, we're talking a lot about theory here and kind of, what the principles are of Christianity as you see it in the Old Testament and the New Testament. But in terms of practical application, it seems to be really lacking. You're representing, I'm not saying it's incorrect view. I mean, I've tried to argue for that, but you're representing a view which you're admitting is held by a minority of quote unquote Christians today. So even if you're correct, it seems like there's no genuine practical application of that anyway. So how does that really help society if it's never being instituted or it's not for several hundred years?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I think if you look at, as we mentioned in last night's debate, right? If I was Isaiah and it was, I was being taken into Babylonian captivity and I'd been given these prophecies that from our perspective are predicting the conversion of the Gentile nations to worship the God of Israel, to worship Yahweh, that would seem totally impossible. How could that ever be? If you look at the first century when Jesus is doing his ministry, right? In the book of John, he says, if I be lifted up, I will draw all nations unto myself. I mean, Christianity is a tiny sect. This seems absolutely outlandish and impossible. In the Magnificat in Luke, the Theotokos, St. Mary says, all generations henceforth will call me blessed. These are pretty profound prophecies. And again, at that time, that would seem preposterous. How would all the nations call this random virgin in Israel blessed? That seems crazy. And yet, here we are 2,000 years later, and many, many millions, perhaps billions of people have called her blessed. So even the latest scholars dating those texts would still date it within the time frame when the church was a tiny minority being persecuted. My point in all that is just simply to say that just because something is not the present dominant idea has nothing to do with whether it could be. And when you look at the way that the first 3 centuries of the church eventually took over the Roman Empire, it wasn't with swords, it was with the blood of the martyrs. That's what actually converted Byzantium, or made Byzantium what it is. It was built on the blood of the martyrs. So in the same way, just because at this present moment there's not explicitly Christian states, and by the way, it doesn't necessarily have to be a monarchy, it's just simply that in the history of the church, what we have is the imperium as the norm. So we would argue that it is an emperor, it is an imperium, and it is kings and queens, the one and the many relationship in that sort of Byzantine model that is the ideal. Is it possible to have a Christian republic? It's possible. Perhaps. There have been theologians that have argued it's possible. It hasn't existed really yet. But again, I don't have to prove that right now my position has to be dominant if in the first 3 centuries it took over, and perhaps the internet will, bring Orthodox Christianity. It's bringing millions of people, into the church. I think in the next 10 years, we've already seen tens of thousands just this year.
So I think need more diorites, right?
Well, again, Orthodox Christianity isn't diorites, but I'm just simply saying that we don't know if 3 centuries conquered the Roman Empire and those prophecies were fulfilled. There's no reason why, and some of even the most anti-Christian global elites actually write in their text that they are concerned of a rise of Christian theocracy. So again, the fact that, but none of that has anything to do with proving that Islam is better for society.
Correct, but what my basic proposal throughout my opening statement and what I've been questioning is that if one religion is going to be better for society, it has to have a political view, a political perspective. Obviously, I've tried to argue that I don't think that Christianity has an explicit enough political doctrine, and that's why we see in the early period where there's some disagreement, as you said, and then today where pretty much nobody believes in it, and then we have a period which, whatever.
But that would just be appeal to masses. Like, so what if none of those things prove that there isn't that teaching just because a lot of people don't believe it or know it.
No, but I'm saying to you that I think it stands to reason that if it's so, if the positions regarding it are so diverse in the early period and the late period, I don't think it's merely because of what you stated earlier. I think that there is a lack of clarity in the New Testament. I think that even Jesus' earthly ministry, as you said, in the way that you're interpreting it, he was not a political figure in that way.
But when Jesus is ministering, right,
Yeah.
the apostles' epistles, for example, have not been written. Okay, so to take an instance and say, well, in this case, because Jesus didn't give a legal ruling, therefore the New Testament doesn't have clear teachings on the rules and principles of the state. And I'm saying there's many passages that, from our perspective, providentially would be included in Scripture, which do consistently comment on that. And even if there's debate in the 1st and 2nd century amongst a lot of the apologists and people that end up even not being in the church, like Origen, that's really irrelevant to whether there is a doctrine of the state in the New Testament. And I've not seen how you've shown any significant evidence yet that there's not a Christian doctrine of the state, because I can keep going with more passages that demonstrate that.
Okay, so what do you think is and it's not built upon one, if you want to give 2 or 3, that's fine. What do you think are the clearest passages in the New Testament specifically, not the Old Testament, in the New Testament specifically that support your position?
Well, the first most obvious one would be Romans 13, where, as I said, Paul specifically calls, and note this is at the time when it's a persecuting pagan emperor. This is Nero, who absolutely hates the church. And Paul still calls Nero, much like you see in the book of Daniel with the way Daniel treats Nebuchadnezzar, Paul still calls him a diakonos, a providential ordained ruler of God. So that means that there's a duty, and his duty specifically is outlined there in Romans 13, to punish evildoers with the sword, and that is the death penalty. I don't think any exegetes, even if they're liberals, would disagree that that's what Paul thought it meant. And then if we look at, for example, Romans 1 and 2, there's very similar principles there, that even the natural law teaches us that the state has this role. He says explicitly to Timothy that the law exists, and that's, of course, enforced by the ruler, the king. The law exists to punish, and then he lists a series of sins that are particularly egregious. And again, the assumption is there in Romans 1, Romans 13, and in the passage to Timothy, those are particularly egregious and perhaps even capital offenses. So these are just 3 off of the cuff. There are many more, and like I said, it was normative even in Athanasius and St. Alexander's day. This is like the year 300. It was normative for every catechumen to come into the church to read the Deuterocanon and to read Proverbs. Now, I know a lot of Protestants might not be familiar with the Deuterocanonical text, but the Deuterocanonical texts have tons of information about kings, magistrates, judges, rulers. For example, the book of
He's
Sirach,
very underrated.
again, what St. Athanasius has every catechumen reading. It's full of practical advice and practical principles that relate to all the things that we're talking about. Simply reading the book of Sirach alone, as St. Athanasius mandates all of the converts do, would actually answer every one of these qualms. That's just Sirach.
So you first mentioned Romans 13, and it seems to be advocating for
Hey guys, if you're liking the content, go ahead and hit that like button. All I ask you to do is hit the like button.
submission to Nero, right? So I don't understand how this supports your position, because it seems like it's an example of the apostles making peace with a pagan state, which would basically be my argument, not yours.
No, so again, if you look at Nebuchadnezzar in the book of Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar is a pagan. And the whole purpose and point of the book of Daniel is that eventually Nebuchadnezzar is humbled and he converts to believe in some sense in the one true God. But that doesn't mean that it's the job of Daniel to revolt or overthrow him, right? Obviously, he's in a situation where they're taken into captivity. And so the recognition is that even though he's a pagan, there's a providential role that he serves. So Paul is talking about in Romans 13, the providential duty that any ruler or head of state has to God. Now, whether those people follow those duties or whether they're wicked, that's a different question, because they're providentially there. So our perspective is that, and this is why there's so many martyrs, we don't worship Nero, we can allow Nero to be the providentially ordained ruler. That doesn't mean that God doesn't want Nero to follow Christian principles, but whether he does is a different question. And that's a separate question from when there is a Christian king, he has even more of an obligation and duty to follow the biblical principles.
Is there such thing as righteous rebellion against people like Nero? Is that possible in the Orthodox Church?
So this is a different question. In terms of like, could there be situations where case by case basis you could have a civilizational struggle, something like that? And there is in the Byzantine history situations where there could be legitimate revolution, but that's a separate question from whether or not the New Testament teaches that we are supposed to. For example, the New Testament is there to confirm the fulfillment of the prophecies of Christ. But again, the reason I went to Syriac is that it's not the mindset even of the first, second, third century church, because they were all using the deuterocanonical text. It's not our mindset that we only look into the New Testament to see, are there verses that give a list of legal principles? There's actually are some, but I'm saying that the catechumens are not just reading the New Testament.
Yet you are the one that comes in spewing hate. That's you, by the way. You're the one that comes in spewing hate. Right? Not me, not MAGA, not Trump supporters, but you. So, goodbye.
Because they don't even necessarily have an entire New Testament. They're also reading the book of Sirach, which is literally full of every aspect of society. It's like 60 plus chapters, all aspects of society being covered. Even magistrates, judges, rulers, kings. The book of Proverbs has dozens of proverbs about kings. So all of those would be being read. And so the argument seems to hinge on everybody just reading the Gospels and then coming up with a vague notion of the state. That's not true.
Well, it seems to me in this case and in other passages that...
Okay, one more point on that. Actually, the Deuterocanon is a great point here, because to the point of the Reformation, because the Reformation doesn't believe in the Deuterocanon, they didn't have that for catechumens, you're actually leaving out a gigantic portion of the book of Sirach, which would be about Christian kings.
Okay. The reason why I think it's related, why I'm asking about possible rebellion, is because if you have this idea of the church being involved in political affairs and submitting to the ruler, is there supposed to be submission to the ruler in this case, even if he's a pagan? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Okay,
Because if the Christian laws are supposed to be instituted, why would Christians be required? It seems like they're required actually not to rebel, to render unto Caesar, to just basically submit to the authority, whether they're Christian and instituting Christian values or not.
So basically, the church, again, in the first, second, third century, when they're in the catacombs being persecuted, they have the same attitude as, for example, Daniel in Babylon, right? So, first of all, just practically speaking, it's not feasible to engage in there's no way Daniel could have politically revolted. So it's different from the case of say the Maccabees, where there was a potentiality of some successful revolt. That's just practically speaking. That's a separate question from when or if you could revolt. So, but in the case of the early church fathers, there's a lot of discussion of this. And the principle is that there's authorities and there's authorities above those authorities. So, for example, and I think even Roman Catholics, everybody agrees with this, perhaps even Protestants, we believe that we are to obey the existing authorities except when they go outside of their legitimate sphere. So when Nero said, you have to worship the image of me and say that I'm God, that's when the early martyrs thought, no, that's where we have to draw the line. Now you are going against the higher authority. So in anything that they're not directly violating God's law, et cetera, 10 Commandments, then we do have a duty actually to obey the higher authority. And this is, this same principle is applied all over Western law. That's why you couldn't get away with just saying, in warfare, oh, well, my commanding, officer told me to rape and kill, so I'm not guilty. You're still guilty because there's a higher authority above that. That's a legal principle.
Okay, but in the case of Nero, for example, or somebody else who's a pagan ruler, and they are requiring or demanding that Christians engage in idolatry, then, I mean, I guess at what point is it to say, okay, we're not following this particular law that the Nero or this pagan ruler is trying to institute, versus when does it go so far to say, well, we're not only not following it, but we need to remove this guy because he's going so far beyond that we actually now have to remove him and institute a Christian ruler in that place.
Well, I think that in the history of Western civilization, when societies became predominantly Christian is when they began to think about Christian law and a Christian ruler. And so when you have that majority, and that's why Orthodox Christianity is not primarily a political movement. So it's, again, it's just a source, it's like a situation of emphases. So we're not going to emphasize the political, but by not emphasizing that as number one, it doesn't follow from that we don't have anything to say the political. That's the divide that I think the modern sort of Baptist evangelical mindset has about church and state. So if there were a situation where, I don't know, there was a majority Christian country, and you see this in the history of Byzantium, at times there were revolutions. If, for example, there was, a subversive ruler or something like that, there could conceivably be a revolution in that case that could be argued for. But again, that's not analogous to when the church is being persecuted because it's not in a Christian society. It's having to function within a society persecuting it. And so when it permeates, though, and there's Christian laws, then those rulers are held accountable to those Christian laws. Prior to that, he's accountable to God, but the church doesn't have political power. Christians don't have political power. But when they do, there is a change of situation.
Would you consider the U.S. to be a Christian nation?
I typically argue that the United States is half Christian.
What does that mean? Near the end of the open dialogue. I'll let you finish that thought.
Okay.
It just simply means that some of the principles of the founding of America were Christian in nature and ethos, its history, but it was also mixed up with a lot of Enlightenment ideas that are fundamentally not Christian.
Okay. The reason why I'm asking because I think that the U.S. would be an example or should be an example of where it's gone beyond a certain point that I'm not Christian, but I would advocate for a rebellion because of the fact that there are so many laws in the U.S. that are fundamentally against Christianity and Christian values. Abortion, I can name several, and that I think would demand actually what we're just discussing.
Well, so from the Orthodox perspective, we don't believe that we even really have a relevance to the political realm in terms of power, not in terms of our moral, teaching and saying what ought to be the case. We can always exercise that. But in terms of political power, that's only when you have a majority of a society as an Orthodox Christian would you even entertain that type of a question from our perspective. At that point, when there's Christian laws, yeah, maybe. But first of all, America is founded as a Protestant nation. Maybe in 200-300 years it could be an Orthodox country, but that's not a present question. And no, Orthodox Christians are not called to engage in political revolution.
Okay, I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for that open dialogue. We'll jump into the 5-minute. We'll jump into the 5-minute closings, and I will start it on your first word, Jay.
Yeah, I think this is interesting because I didn't know where this debate was going to go, and it got very historical, which is cool because this is not the type of debate that I've usually done. Usually the debates are very heavily philosophical, so this was engaging. It was a new kind of pathway. I appreciate that. I appreciate Jake asking a lot of questions.
Respectful.
But I don't think that out of this argument, because there's lack of clarity at certain times in the West about the relationship of church and state, that it follows from that somehow therefore Islam would be the solution, or therefore Islam has a better answer. As Jake admitted, many Islamic countries are also susceptible to all of the same problems of secular Enlightenment ideas, etc. Islamic society is, I think, plagued with, again, many of the problems that Andrew highlighted in the debates that he's had with Daniel Hakikachu and others. I think those are problems that are pretty kind of glaring, that Western societies, for all of their problems, they're not subject to those problems. So I don't think that Islam is going to be a solution, especially if we're looking for unanimity, if we're looking for, sort of black and white answers. Well, if in Islamic law there's fiqh, which does not have consistent rulings on a host of moral issues, I don't think that that's going to be a solution. Again, if he's admitted that there's ambiguity and contradictions, perhaps, in the rulings of Islamic law or fiqh, I don't see how his position is in any better state than what he was arguing about my position having a lack of clarity in the first 3 centuries. And he even sort of admitted throughout the debate that, yeah, I mean, you do have a consistent, millennia plus of a position of Christian theocracy and Byzantium, but a lot of people today don't believe that. Again, that has nothing to do with which one's correct, which one is therefore better for society. I think in my opening statement, I outlined many principles, many ideas that Christian Western civilization does possess. Because we are still having the remnants of Christianity, there's a lot of potential as to where we could go. And we see this in the Old Testament as well. In many cases in the Old Testament, Israel is unfaithful. Israel falls into idolatry. They fall into all the same sins that we're falling into today. And Israel is always called back to repentance and to God. And by following God's law, they find, as we read in Chronicles, the famous passage, right? If my people who are called by my name, if they humble themselves and repent, then I will come and I will bless their land. Now, ultimately, we know that's about, in our view, a type of the church, but it still applies to the civil society as well. The fact that a lot of the New Testament focuses on the spiritual, it doesn't follow from that we're supposed to be Marcionites or Gnostics and therefore think that, well, the state doesn't matter, we don't care. And in fact, at DebateCon 10, 2 debates with Trent Horn, I will be debating Trent Horn on that very principle. Did the Catholic Church depart from church and state teaching, and does the Orthodox Church still maintain a consistent Symphonia teaching? So that will be fun at DebateCon 10. Just a little plug. But again, I just don't think, I didn't hear anything in Jake's argumentation that made me convinced or would make me to think that Islam would be better for society. I think that, again, I didn't really get into the philosophical side of it, but even some of the philosophical advancements that you find supposedly in Islam, and you could find this in even standard Sunni texts, it's really just stuff that came from Greek philosophers, from Aristotle and others, which are part of our heritage of Western civilization. And I don't think those things are somehow magically in the Quran. I think they're literally clearly borrowed from the Western tradition. And as Western civilization people, we can include and we can say that Greek philosophers had a lot of insights. We can appreciate Aristotle. We can appreciate Plato. We can look at elements of Roman law, canon law, not because they're, quote, pagan. In our view, there's nothing inherently bad. If there was a just law in Rome under the pagan period, there's nothing wrong with the church when it gets ascendancy and when Christianity and Christians have temporal power. There's nothing wrong with them baptizing and using those principles as long as they're not idolatrous. So that we have to be careful. We're not engaging in idolatry, but we can still baptize these elements of culture that are existing that are good. Hence why our civilization has a confluence of interests. It could be Roman law. It could be English common law. Even those things have a precedent in Christian ideas, biblical ideas. And because the modern world has rejected that theocratic principle, it doesn't follow from that's, I mean, I would just simply say that that's why we're seeing a lot of the bad things happening, is that we simply don't recognize that God has something to say to the state as well.
Thank you very much for that closing, Jay. We'll kick it over to Jake for his 5-minute closing as well.
Okay. I do want to say that I agree with Jay that I'm kind of happy the way the debate went in terms of discussing mainly the historical aspect and some texts in the Bible, because Jay and I previously had a debate that was mainly philosophical. So this one is pretty much completely different, mostly historical. I do want to say that the reason why I'm arguing that Islam is better for society, although we didn't go into many specifics on this point, but from an abstract perspective, it seems to me that Islam, from the Quran and authentic hadith, is very clearly political. There is no separation between mosque and state or church and state, for analogy. And I'm making the argument that the reason why we see Western society in the position that it is in today is because there is a lack of clarity in the biblical text. Jay tried, and respect to him for that, but I don't see very clear texts in the Bible that are supporting the theocracy or monarchy vision that Jay deems fit. I just don't see it. I think that, yes, there's a lot of laws and principles from the Old Testament, and Jay was making a lot to do about biblical prophecies that prophesy things that are going to happen in the future. But again, supposed prophecies and things from the Old Testament that are supposed to be instated in the New Testament, which don't clearly seem to be. And I think the example that you brought from, I think it was Romans of Nero, I think actually goes against your vision and what you've said, because it's an idea where someone who's completely opposed to Christianity, we're just not maybe in your private lives, maybe you can reject worshiping idols and things like that, but we're supposed to just allow this person to institute any of these laws that he wants, even if they're totally against Christianity and Christian principles. And I just see that as fundamentally problematic. I have made a lot to do about Jay's position being a minority today, because we're talking, part of the debate is about the practical application of the view. Can Islam and its principles, can it actually be applied today? And I think that it can, and that it is not 100% in the way that I would like it to be, but it certainly is much more in Muslim countries than you see in the supposed Christian West. And we have to ask the question, well, why is that? Why is it that the supposed Christian West has been affected in a much greater sense by secular liberalism than anything that you see in Muslim countries? I myself, I live in a Muslim country, Morocco. Of course, it doesn't institute all of the laws and Islamic laws in the way that I think it should, but nevertheless, it does so in much greater terms than anything that we see in the West, in my opinion. So I think that Islam has a lot to say about the society. Some of that Christians wouldn't like, and I think part of the reason is because they've been affected by the secular West. For example, I think Jay would probably agree with me that blasphemy laws should be instated, and that he wouldn't have a problem with the Christian church advocating for that. I do as well, but many Christians who live in the West have been affected by this idea of secular liberalism, that, okay, as long as we're not sort of physically harming anyone, then basically we should let people do whatever they want, and love is love, so we can have all of these different kinds of marriages, although they don't allow, it's illegal for Muslim men to marry more than one woman. But that's another inconsistency within the sort of secular liberal framework. But my argument is that secular liberalism comes pretty much out of the Protestant movement, not immediately, but eventually.
So it's hard to argue with anything Jay says. He's a philosophical, and he's well versed. This has been a very respectful debate, but I think Jay's done a better job for expressing his views and why Christianity is better than Islam, in my opinion. That's my opinion.
He leads to that. And I think that it's very clearly the case that it's because there is a lack of clarity regarding church government and the government structure that is supposed to be in place, that is envisioned by Christianity in the Bible. I don't think it's clear at all. I think that Jay has tried to give passages, tried to give examples of prophecies from the Old Testament and so on and so forth. But the New Testament doesn't really clearly reinstitute any of that from the Old Testament. There's no details about exactly what's supposed to happen in business transactions and all the nitty-gritty details that are supposed to run society that exists in developed Jewish law and Islamic law. Yes, there are differences amongst scholars in Islamic law, but the fact that we have clear Islamic law and debates amongst the scholars shows that there is a clear position. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that closing, Jake. With that, we're going to go into the Q&A, but first I want to give a huge thank you to our sponsors, including Main First Project, Roar, Uncensored America, and Apologetics Arc. We appreciate their support of fair debates. Check out their links in the description box right now. Also, quick housekeeping note is, if you can let me know, get for Saturday and who 5 people. So we're going to have the rest of the week. I know that or cool.
I've never watched Jay Dyer. I was brought here boys. I've appreciated.
Want to have a conversation in the hallway? It's totally cool.
So Jake, I've appreciated the intellectual honesty and sincerity you've brought this whole day. It's actually quite joyous. So my background is I've never watched Jay Dyer. I was brought here by a friend, but I am an Orthodox Christian, and I do agree with a lot of what Mr. Dyer is saying. My question really is, like, Orthodoxy posits a new way of life for people that addresses more of the root cause of humanity's condition, more than, say, the surface causes with polity and the governance of peoples. So really, I know that we don't have a system, but is it safe to say that, like, Bronze Age-esque mosaics are the solution for addressing the root cause in people when that has obviously not worked with the Jews?
I didn't hear the last part.
Oh, I'm sorry. So would you say that would mosaics be would mosaic-esque solutions
I would agree with that,
with the law of Moses or with the Quran?
Bad
And
leaders,
forgive me,
I would like to
I
have them
know
out
very
for
little
sure.
about Islam, but are these solutions the way to address the root cause with people? When it did not work with, say, the Jews.
I think that it is. I don't know. I think Jay might even agree with me about that. That I think that we have to get back to, of course, I don't agree with the Bible, so I'm going to say from my perspective, Islamic principles and Islamic law, I think that is the way. And unfortunately, a lot of people think, oh, well, just, there shouldn't be any pressure from the state and there shouldn't be any obvious leanings of what religion and laws are being instituted based upon said religion. I just think that that's wrong. I think that most people are not equipped to make their own decisions a lot of the times, and they need to be told what is correct and what is right, and I think that it needs to be enforced by the state. And I think the problem that we see in the West is allowing everybody to just kind of make up their own mind and follow whatever they want, and it leads to chaos and destruction.
Well, why are you in a scientist onesie? Oh, I like it. It's crazy.
Ready for you.
With a tie.
All right, so Jay clearly won because he's got the better hat.
It's a woman's hat, too, by the way. It's my wife's hat.
So my question's for Jake. So you said that the Christian scriptures don't have any teachings on political systems. If that's true, then why did God appoint the monarchy of David? And I have 2 different scriptures to quote for that. Samuel 5:12 said, "And David knew that the Lord had established him king over Israel, and that he had exalted his kingdom for the sake of the people of Israel." And then Chronicles 28:4 says, David says, "The Lord God of Israel chose me from all of my father's house to be king over Israel forever."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so again, and Jay, I don't think Jay mentioned specifically those passages. He might have, I'm not sure. But most and much of what's quoted is coming from the Old Testament. Okay, so I agree that the Jews, and this is why you see this, right? The Jews and the Muslims have a very developed tradition of Jewish law and Islamic law. You don't see that in the Christian West or even the East.
All right, so Under Sooner said a lot of Muslims' goal is to put Sharia law in the United States. You see it in Dearborn, Michigan, and other places that are trying to make Islamic towns. It's true. The Muslim guy chastised Christianity for giving rise to liberalism, but ignores the Amma relies on the support of the liberal left. Muslims are destroying a lot of the churches, especially in Canada and Africa. Liberalism is against Christianity. I agree with a lot of that.
East, there's not a very developed system of law. Now, you do have things like canon law, and we discussed some of those things before, but it's nowhere near as developed as anything that exists in Jewish law or Muslim law, which Jay mentioned earlier as fiqh. And I think that the reason is because the New Testament is not clear. It doesn't have any clear passages like you mentioned in the Old Testament. It just doesn't exist.
So in response to that, as I noted, it's an assumption that the early Christians and even the later Christians only cared about what the New Testament said. We always held all of those principles to be the case. Again, St. Athanasius, one of the most important patriarchates in the entire history of the church is the Alexandrian Patriarchate. And their norm, according to Athanasius' letters, was all catechumens are brought into the church reading all the deuterocanonical texts. That would mean, again, countless verses throughout Sirach about kings and the principles of the Davidic iconographic representation that every basileus, that's the Byzantine idea of the ruler, he's a basileus, that's based on the idea of David. So it's just simply not the case that the church didn't look to all these Old Testament principles.
And then for the Q&A line, if you guys can do me a favor.
Christianity has been invaded by feminism, and they're weak. There's no strong men in the Christian faith at this time. If I say no, there's very few, right? I don't want to speak in a monolith and say there's none, but there's very few, and they're not in positions of power to do anything.
Slide all the way just single file. That way the cameras are able to see the speakers. All right, and then we'll keep you tight this way. That way. There you go.
All right. So this debate is about what is better for society, and you argue that Islam is better because Protestantism led to individuality, which eventually led to liberalism, which I agree liberalism is not the best for society. But I think your argument fails in that Islam would also have this liberal ideology influence, except every time it starts up in a free Islamic society, they crush it through violence, war, and dictatorship, killing their own people. And you can see that in places like Iran and other places where revolution have taken place. And I would go on farther that even with the richest nation in the world, Saudi Arabia, Islamic nations have done nothing over the last 2 centuries to invent any great revolution for society. Meanwhile, a bunch of Christian farmers overthrew the greatest colonizing nation the world has ever seen and built the most powerful nation of the modern era. And even in this liberal revolution, America has maintained its Christian foundation while peacefully exploring revolutionary ideas and democracy. So I would ask you, if Islam is better, why are your people massively immigrating to all the Christian nations and don't stay in their own?
One of the reasons is because supposed Christian nations like the U.S. keep bombing the crap out of Muslim nations. And so they're living in situations in which there's not a good economy. They're being bombed. I can go through so many examples of that. But I myself, I left the U.S. to live in a Muslim country, and I think Muslims should too. So maybe we agree on that.
Well, I just wanted to say the word shit because I see that Trent Horn is in the back, and I want to know if he's going to leave the room if I say the 4-letter word. No, okay. I'm just joking, Trent.
I think Trent should take my place for the rest of the debate.
No, I just agree that the Muslims should go back to their nation and leave America.
You disagree with that?
No, I agree. They should stop immigrating here and taking over Frisco. It'd be great.
I agree too. That's one thing I agree on.
I can agree on that.
Hey, Jake, I just wanted to ask you, you say that Islam is better or would be better for American society because Protestantism, liberal Christianity imposes liberalism. But I want to ask you, if Islam would better American society, why is it the case that every single congressperson on the federal level in the United States have all been liberal Democrats that actually contribute to these things that you criticize?
In other words, you're saying that liberal democracy is a good thing? Is that what you're trying to say?
No. I said, if you're saying it's a bad thing and that Islam would be the alternative, why is it that every single Muslim representative on the federal level in Congress, every single one of them were liberal Democrats?
Well, there's hardly any of them. There's a few, and they're all phonies.
I guess that's the answer. Submit to Rome, Jay.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Hi, this question is actually directed at...
You're good. This question is actually directed at both you guys. As an ex-atheist, this question used to be kind of the center point of why I was an atheist. I think both Christianity and Islam agree and teach that human beings often fail to live according to God's will and what he teaches us.
I agree, Joe.
However, if followers repeatedly misuse or distort the religion throughout history, we see in Christianity through the Crusades, Islam, I think a lot of it goes without saying. I mean, we see ISIS, we see what happens in the Middle East. How should an outsider determine whether these failures reflect the human nature itself or actually something that it reveals about the religion itself? And is there any threshold where the consistent fruit of a movement should cause us to question the movement's teachings themselves?
Do you want to answer first, Jay? Or?
Well, I mean, the examples were kind of complex. I don't think that with, issues like the Crusades, there's a simple, good guy, bad guy, and, oh, that was all bad or that was all good. I mean, all of these situations or examples are extremely complex, and it's very difficult to say in broad brushstrokes that this is all the fault of the religion, right? Like, I wouldn't want to say that because Western civilization birthed, liberalism and atheism in the modern era, that therefore all of Christianity. It's just very difficult. It's a complex question. I just don't know if you can immediately identify, unless it's something egregious. And I think that in my perspective, a lot of Islamic teachings are egregiously wrong. Those things would be, to me, indicators, but that's also going to be based on my paradigm. So I think ultimately, I'm not trying to cop out, but ultimately it's going to be a paradigm level question depending upon what you consider to be good and bad. And if you're an atheist, I don't think atheists even have a basis to say what's good and bad. So they're just going to confirm with their own assumptions whatever they don't like based on interpreting some event like the Crusades or whatever.
And did you say you're an atheist or ex-atheist? Oh, okay. Yeah, so I was just confused.
I used to attribute a lot of my atheism towards the fact that many religions justify evil acts through text or through their religion itself. So.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that certainly happens. It happens in Christianity, happens in Islam, but I don't think that necessarily refutes the religion or indicates it, right? If there is a clear pattern that happens over and over again, and
depends on how you feel about them.
The people themselves, pretty much all of them, are agreeing that it's from the religion, then that would call into question, as Jay said, whether or not you agree with said position. So, for example, of course, I don't support ISIS at all, but I do believe that jihad or warfare is legitimate. So, yeah, it just all depends on the situation.
Ready for you.
My question is for the Muslim. You say that the Islamic religion is best for society. So, from a society like the Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, you have the education of women that is barred after grade 6. You have their restriction of public employment. You have their freedom of movement restricted. You have women being spit on and beaten for not wearing a head covering. You have Muslim women being attacked just for whatever the man wants. And you have mass rape of Muslim women. And you also have harlots and harem for Muslim women, where a man can take multiple wives. And then you also have bacha-bazi boys. So how do you reconcile this with the original premise of the debate being, how is this better for society?
You seem pretty upset by what you said. You got a nice hat there. It's better than Jay's. But no, just because there are some Muslims, and I would dispute a lot of the things that you said, but even if I granted that there are some Muslims who are doing things like, as you mentioned, bacha-bazi stuff in Afghanistan, that doesn't mean that it's correct. There's nothing in the Quran or Islamic law which supports that type of behavior at all. So there's always going to be people who claim to be a particular religion who actually do heinous things, and there's no way around that. That's just going to happen.
Out of curiosity, is there a society that you do think exists that has a good form of Islamic law and practice?
There are some more than others, but none completely are instituting Islamic law. But I mean, I can give you my view of which ones I think are better. I think a lot of the Gulf states are.
Would you agree that your supposed prophet and, in my opinion, demon, who married a 6-year-old girl, is the pinnacle of your religion and the ideal state of your society?
No, it's not the pinnacle of the religion. Just because the prophet did something, that doesn't make it the pinnacle of the religion.
We're going to go to the next question.
My question is in the line of the relationship between the church and the state. The Eastern Orthodox Church historically have been tied or married to the political unit that they exist in. The Russian Orthodox Church, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, Greek, Ethiopian, Eritrean. Now, usually they tend to support the state, even in times of war. Now, doesn't that put the Christian communities in those political units in danger of warring with each other? And we can see at the example of the Russian Orthodox Church supporting Putin, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church supporting Ukraine, warring with each other.
Yeah.
I have firsthand witnessed Eritreans and Ethiopians, Coptic Christians, warring with each other. How is that good for Christian societies in those states?
Why would that be good? What in anything that I argued would make you think that I'm saying that would be good?
Well, because the Eastern Orthodox Church is always tied to the political unit.
Well, because the church has something to say to politics and has a doctrine of symphonia, it again doesn't follow from that it will always be explicated or done in the right way. We would simply say that it's actually impossible, which I would agree with Jake, it's really not possible to have a secular view of the state if you are a religious believer. It becomes really, you really just cut God off from that area of society, and you act as if, as many Baptists think, right, that, well, I have my own personal religious belief, but it's nothing really to do with the state. So you kind of create this division between two realms. But there's never been a situation in Christian history or the Old Testament where God didn't have principles and things to say to the state. So the fact that you find examples, and by the way, there is no historical Ukrainian Orthodox Church. That doesn't exist. What exists is the church, huh?
It does exist now. The Ukrainian Orthodox Church exists now. And Ukrainian
Okay, where did that come
Christians-
from? Do you know where it came from?
Well, we can go into that, but either way.
Well, it was
Ukrainian
created by the
Orthodox
State
Church
Department.
Exists.
It
Russian
was
Orthodox
created
Church
by the
exists.
State Department, so that's why there's a Ukrainian Orthodox Church. Prior to the existence of Ukraine, which comes out of World War I, there was only the Russian Church there. There was no Ukrainian Orthodox Church separate from Moscow. That's a creation of the West. So if your idea is that the separation of church and state is the ideal, it's ironic that it's actually the American government that created that separation there with the Church of Ukraine and with Moscow. So I'm simply saying that there will always be, as Papanatsev said in his famous book, Reflections of a Russian Statesman, if you have this strict division of church and state, not just separation, but division of the church from the state, you don't actually get freedom and liberty. What you get is a new church running the state, namely the state becomes the church running the state. So I'm saying it's not possible to have what you're assuming, I'm assuming you're arguing.
Either way, Christians in those countries are warring with each other. That's my point. Also, if Russia or Ukraine or Ethiopia or Eritrea, in which these churches exist, if they were to collapse, the church also is affected or would collapse with them. Whereas in the Protestant tradition, if the U.S. were to go down, the Methodist Church or any Protestant church wouldn't go down with the state.
No, I don't think that's true at all. Again, there were no Protestant Methodist churches for centuries of existence for the first 1,500 years of the church, right? I mean, John Wesley Methodism, that's 1700s. So the idea that somehow Protestantism is protected because it's not tied to the state, that's not even classical Protestantism. All the first generation reformers utilized the state to promote their Reformation. Luther used the German princes. The history of the Methodist Church is bound up with the Anglican Church. So what you're arguing for is really just a fiction that doesn't actually exist.
Got to go to the next person. I'm sorry. I've given you I just want to make sure that they get to ask their questions before. Go ahead.
Okay. This is for Jake. I just had a question. Isn't the abolition of slavery
in the that began in the Christian world. Isn't that a good argument for the strength of Christian ethics in establishing a just society, because it's rooted in a recognition of everybody being made in God's image and the primacy of love of neighbor as a duty?
Only if you think that slavery in any condition is unjust, which I don't agree with.
Okay, but surely you would agree that we're in a much better state now that the conditions of things like chattel slavery are gone and that country after country has abolished slavery. Don't you think that's, on net, a good effect?
I think that that is a good thing, yeah.
I just have a question for Jake.
Yeah.
Your whole debate, your whole deal was that liberalism is bad, which we agree on. My question to you is, if it's so bad, why is the hypocrisy that every city that is Muslim here in the United States votes for them?
Why do Muslims vote for liberals, I guess,
Yes,
is your
sir.
question?
They work for democratic liberalism ideology that you guys do not support, but you're using it to take over this country.
I don't think we're taking over the country. We're about 1% of the population.
That's your goal.
What's that?
That's your goal.
That's not my goal.
Well-
I left. I'm out of here. I don't want nothing to do with the U.S.
Sure. Sure.
So I think that the reason is because secular liberalism has the facade of allowing people to do whatever they want, and that's what a lot of these Democrats and leftists promise Muslims. They think that because they're the extreme minority, they have to support that. They're okay to allow gays to get married and do those things so long as they can have their mosque and do whatever they want. That's the reasoning behind it. But I don't agree with it at all.
All right. Well, you're one of the few. But I mean, in my personal opinion, I agree with you. There should be more religion in the government. Maybe we keep all of you guys out of this country.
I'm not here, so it's fine with me.
I would like to thank both Muslims that came to debate to me for actually just arguing against Protestantism, because both Muslims, the whole argument was against Protestantism. So.
And arguing against Trent Horn, too. Don't forget about that.
We do want to do a couple of quick housekeeping things before we do one final round of applause. Jay is correct. Trent Horn and Jay have agreed to a debate late this year that will be December 13th in that weekend. We're still negotiating on venues, but we also want to show this beauty, as my editor just made this today, as Jay Dyer will be also facing Dr. David Wood this fall. So that'll be at DebateCon 9 in Orlando. Tickets will go on sale within the next week. We have a newsletter if you'd like to join that. That's at our YouTube About page. And that's where we send out basically whenever we do launch our next tickets for our next event. So we are looking forward to Jay and Dr. David Wood facing off twice at that fall conference in Orlando, which, by the way, that hotel has a water park. I'm not joking. It's amazing. But with that, all right, we're good, Bob. Other housekeeping thing, and then we'll give a final round of applause. Remember to take anything out of your car. Don't leave anything in your car. Don't let it be a temptation to anybody. With that, one final round of... Go ahead, Jay.
Also, I do have about 5 books left. We sold out almost all the books last night, but there are some books, and I'll be out there if you guys want to get some books.
Oh, that's right. And then we'll also do that meet and greet for those like 4 or 5 people really quick after the debate. But one last round of applause. Jake and Jay, it's been a true pleasure to have you guys. Thank you guys so much. We will see you tomorrow, hopefully. Otherwise, safe travels if you can't make it. Yes. Special thanks to our sponsors, Maine First Project, Revival of the Anointed's Rule, Uncensored America, Patrick O'Neill, Arc Apologetics, Yonaguni International Cuisine, and SDA. Special thanks to our sponsor, Maine First Project, fighting to put Mainers first. Check out mainefirstproject.org. Huge thanks to Revival of the Anointed's Rule, equipping Christians to fight for biblical values through policy victories. Check out revivetheroar.org. Special thanks to our sponsor, Uncensored America. Want to host a controversial speaker on your college campus? Start a chapter now on your campus at uncensoredamerica.us. Huge thanks to our sponsor, Apologetics Arc. Check out their app today by downloading it. 1 Peter 3:15 says, always be ready to give a defense. Huge thank you to our sponsor, Yonaguni International Cuisine of Aguadilla, Puerto Rico. Check them out on your next trip. Special thanks to our stage sponsor, SDA.
All right, guys. I appreciate everybody. Appreciate everybody. Y'all have a good night. We'll see y'all later. Later, guys.